Well, thank you firstly everyone for coming along this evening to Outdoor Lads Annual General Meeting 2022. I think at present this might be the highest attended AGM that we have to date. So we need 100 of our current members to make the AGM quorum. I'm pleased to say that we are currently at 179. So I am proud to say that our AGM of this year is officially open. So my name is Matt Tennant. I am the chairman of Outdoor Lads. I've been in the group since 2013 and have been the chairman for the last 3 years. I'm just going to load up the presentation and the slides for this evening, and we'll begin tonight's meeting. We're going to start this evening with a little bit of a celebration of one of our big achievements that the group has done in the last 12 months. As you can see, this is our North Face event that we ran earlier on in the year, and I think was a real good show of the sort of the maturity and the way in which Outdoor Lads is now working as an organisation. The fact that we have been successful in getting a corporate sponsor for sort of the first time as a group. It was a really lovely event, and we gained a lot of really excellent publicity. So, Danny, if you go to the next slide. So you can see some of the things that we kind of achieved as part of that sponsorship. So a really big thank you to everyone on that event. And I just wanted to start off this evening, hopefully with a nice little indication of what we were able to do. So what are the aims of the meeting? And thank you to all those who have come tonight. So the aims of our AGM meeting have always been the same over the last couple of years. Firstly, it's to discharge our legal obligations as a charity. So at multiple points this evening, we will be asking you to vote on a number of key legal elements: the approval of our minutes, the approval of the audited accounts, and the appointment of our new trustees who will be joining the board. It's a chance to celebrate what we have achieved over the last 12 months. This year from 2021 is 2022 have really become our bounce back year following the COVID pandemic, and I think it's a chance for us to celebrate what we have done well. The third is to understand some of the challenges that we face as an organisation still going forward, and asking what you can do to help. Fourthly, to give confidence, the sense that we are your elected leaders of the charity. And that for you to hold us to account and have your views on how we think we should be going forward. And lastly, and I hope this is going to be a big theme that runs through this evening's, is to inspire you to get involved either as a leader, if you're an existing leading to lead hopefully some more events, or for a member to get involved in the helping of the running of the charity. So that's what we're going to hopefully do this evening. So Danny, next slide, please. So just load all the points up. So this is our agenda for tonight. So we're a couple of minutes behind as we had a little bit of a rough start, but we will kick off with the housekeeping and what's happening this evening. We will go through our first bit of the meeting governance, so the approval of the minutes and the financial accounts. We're going to have a period of looking back from what's happened this year, so a bit of a reflection. We're then going to have a moment to honour a number of our absent friends who have sadly passed away this year. So at an appropriate moment of this evening, I'd like you all to find a drink, a beer, a glass of water, a wine, where we will toast our absent friends who are not able to join us this evening. We will then get on to what I'd imagine a large number of here are you to talk about this evening is our strategy and what's going on in the organisation over the next couple of years. We then return back to our formal governance. Apologies, there is a little typo, and we'll do the elections a bit later on just to rejig the agenda a bit. And then we'll finish off this evening with the awards. The thing that we always do at the AGM is celebrate the amazing volunteers that have made a contribution. We'll then have any other business, which hopefully by that point we would have got through the main items, and then we will try to close around 9 o'clock tonight. So that is the agenda for this evening. For those who are AGM veterans, hopefully these documents will all be very familiar to you, but for those new members who are joined this evening, you can get access to the documentation on the AGM webpage. So the minutes of last year's meeting, the manifestos for those who are standing, and the annual reports for the finance. So can a member of the board just post a link to the AGM page into the chat in Zoom if members don't have access to it? So next slide, please. So again, for those who are old hands at these online meetings, this should all hopefully make sense. Tonight, we are going to ask members to put their questions in the Q&A function within Zoom. So some people have been very familiar with Zoom before, but some of you not. So please, if you have questions that you'd like to pose to any of the trustees this evening, please use the Q&A function within this. There's a couple of trustees who are going to be kind of on the phones answering questions, which I believe is going to be Liam, Danny, Richard, and I think Danny Valentine. I can't remember, but we've got a group of trustees on hand to ask your questions. If we don't know the answer to your question, we will publish them in the minutes. We will at some point this evening try to take some questions and comments from the floor. If you would like to speak, please use the raise hand function and Simon will pass you the digital mic. We are going to have some votes this evening. So at some point you will be asked to vote on certain items for tonight. We are going to have to take a little pause at each vote where we take the votes that have been cast by proxy and add them to the votes that we're doing here in the meeting. So there's going to be a little bit of a pause as we do that. So do bear with us when we go through it. This AGM is recorded and we make this available afterwards. If anyone wants to be not available in this, we can't see you because it's a webinar we're just presenting, but just be aware that this meeting is going to be recorded tonight. So hopefully that all makes sense. That's how the meeting this evening is going to be run. So we start off tonight then with some of our formal governance, which we can ask you to approve. So there's 4 bits of formal governance that we always go through at the AGM. We're going to do these 2 first. So we'll be asking for the approval of the AGM minutes of 2021, and then we're going to chat through the finances and go through the financial accounts. Later on in the meeting, we'll be doing the trustee elections. Where also we would, if any motions were received, we'd be voting on those, but no motions were received from the members ahead of the AGM. So, Danny, next slide, please. So, the AGM minutes of 2021, this is our first bit of formal governance that we're going to go through. So, my first question to those who were in attendance of the AGM in 2020, it feels like a very long time ago now, are there any questions, comments or alterations that anyone would like to flag for the minutes of last year? Please either raise your hand or put them in the chat. That might be a bit easier. Simon, have we got any questions from the floor on the AGM minutes? So I will ask the question again. Are there any questions, alterations, or requested amendments to the accuracy of the minutes of last year? Doesn't look like it. Okay. Right. So for this, we need a proposer and a seconder before the vote commences. So can I have a proposer to pass for the motion of accepting the minutes? Neil Sharp. Liam, can we record that for the proposer? And we'll take Glenn Odom as the seconder. So Neil Sharp as the proposer, Glenn as the seconder. So we now start our first vote. You have a chance to vote for, against, or abstentions. So Simon, can we have our first poll, please? Yeah.
So the total results are 173 for, 3 against, and 41 abstentions.
Super. Excellent. Well, we will try to make this a bit smoother in future slides, but the minutes of the AGM of 2021 are approved. Excellent. Thank you, everyone, for that. Okay, let's now move on to the next formal bit of governance for this evening, which is the financial overview of 21. We've got some financial slides to go through, then we will ask for your approval. So unfortunately, due to the change in the AGM dates, Neil's our current treasurer isn't available to make the meeting this evening. So myself and Dave will do our best to take you through the slides here. So let's just give a brief summary then on our financial position. So financially, the year ending 31st of March 2022 was a reasonably good financial year for the organisation. You can see on this chart here the comparison of our financial year that ended in the middle of COVID, and you can see the difference in the organisation in terms of our both our expenditure increased due to the fact that we were booking events, the cost of running events increased. As a result, our income increased. And this is clearly a result of Outdoor Lads bouncing back from the COVID programme. And you can see that obviously that has had a much bigger impact on our finances. So the headlines, as you'll be able to see them from the annual report, is that Outdoor Lads were able, after depreciation, to deliver a surplus year. So you can see that our income, so our total surplus that we were able to generate before depreciation was 62,000, and our total income after depreciation was 46,000. And the income after depreciation is important because that is the figure that's shown in the annual accounts. So obviously that's a very good news story in the sense that this year was the first year in a while that Outdoor Lads has been able to return a surplus, which is great. For those who attended the AGM last year, you would have heard that we were successful in getting our VAT refund, which we were successful in getting the VAT rebate from HMRC. That has gone into our accounts this year as a standard single entity. So we're not kind of showing the VAT refund as our standard business profit and loss, but the income that we received from the VAT refund has gone into the accounts for last year. So all in all, a very strong financial position that the charity has found itself into March 22. I also need to report back to this AGM that as a result of the VAT refund and our successful year, we are now above the reserves target that the charity has set. Dave will cover what the reserves target is in the previous fee. But as a result of that income, we have now met our reserves target as a charity, which is good, but we have also exceeded it as well. So we now need to, as an organisation, think about what we do with the money above and beyond our reserves. So a reasonably good financial position. However, and there is a but that comes with this. So we'll go to the next slide, please. So though that we had a very successful financial year, there are a number of one-off items that were contributed to that success as an organisation. So if you wind back that the initial figure of that 46k, £11,000 of income came from the government furlough scheme. £16,000 were taken from donations, and this is a combination of individual member donations, corporate donations, and our corporate sponsorship. Throughout that period, we did not have any website spend, so we reduced our website income down by £30,000 that we would have normally spent in a normal period. And as a result of our cancellation policy and surplus retains from payments, that was £14,000. So without those key elements and those incomes that we received last year, we would have yet again delivered a deficit budget. And it is quite important that we just take note of that, because that tells us as an organisation, if we take only our income from membership and our income from events, and if you add that against our direct expenditure, simply through our self-generated funds, through memberships and events, we are still not as an organisation covering our baseline costs. In a normal year, that might have been a problem, but obviously this year, with the exception of the VAT refund and the situation that we're in, we've been able to kind of offset that. So though, yes, a really good financial year, a really positive picture, there is an element of caution of this, in the sense that without those things that I've listed on the screen, the group's finances would be worse than what they are now. So that's just a bit of a whistle-stop tour. And again, it's apologies, Neil can't be here to present this in more detail. So that's a little bit of a headline tour of the finances from this year. You'll have a chance to have a look through that in all of the accounts. We now move on to Dave, who's going to very briefly talk us through our current financial year. So this is kind of now looking forward to what the remainder of this financial year looks like. So Dave, over to you, please.
Yeah, so this financial year was off to a good start. So being able to run our big events again has been a lot better for us, especially the big spring camp and big peaky and big summer camp. All good, well attended, good income from big spring camp. Also our Halloween event in October sold out in the first week. So it's all good, solid income for the group. Our paid event program has done very well up to August. In fact, we ran at 97% occupancy on our hostels, which is up 6% on where we were in the same period pre-COVID, with campsites running at 82% occupancy. Although we've run fewer events, we've been managing the events that have been put live to make sure we're running fewer fuller events than running a larger number of part empty events, which was leading to some losses in prior years. Now, if everything remained the same, we'll be on track to make a reasonable surplus. However, things aren't likely to stay the same in the current period for a moment. So reserves at the moment are currently at £191,000. Now our target was 95,000 to 135,000, but the VAT refund has taken us over the expected target. However, those reserves do form a key buffer for the organisation. Now, as we know, things have changed. We are now dealing with inflation of around 10%. Our overheads are likely to increase significantly in the remainder of this financial year. We're also conscious that the cost of living crisis is impacting everyone. No, it's impacting our staff and our members, and our direct cost of events going to be going up. So we appreciate people may find it more difficult to pay their membership fees or be able to attend events going forward as costs go up. Those the reserves we have, we may need to dip into should things be worse than we expect. Our intention is that reserves should be used predominantly for capital use, but we'll be looking at potentially using them for member assistance or for reviewing membership fees going forward. This will all be dealt with by the membership stream of the strategy going forward, and we'll be determining what the best course of action will be over the next few months.
Super, that's great. Thank you, Dave. So we have been able to claw back a little bit of time in terms of the agenda, which I'm cautious that we want to give as much time as possible later on for the strategy discussion, but we do have a little bit of time for question and answers on the finances. It may well be that certain bits of this we have to take away and find out the answer for you, but Dave and myself and the other trustees will do as best as we can to answer the questions in this section. So we'll go to Liam or one of the trustees manning the phones. Do we have any questions that have come through on the finance section that you would like the panel to answer?
So Dave, the two questions that are coming on finance stuff are, you're typing an answer, I think. Surely cancellations and surplus retaining payments is not a one-off payment. It may not be guaranteed, but it will still be money retained next year.
Yes, that's a very valid point, and I probably, as a clarification, yes, we will always have income through cancellations through our cancellation policy. So yeah, that's right. I guess the organisation with its current refund policy, that will always be the case. So yeah, that's a good clarification. Thank you.
Right. The next question is on the VAT refund, and it was over how many years? Most businesses would have restated accounts for the year it covers. Difficult to see exactly where we are without restated accounts.
Yes, so and I might, again, this might be a question that I need, so that the information was probably in the AGM for last year, but in terms of the VAT refund of that £106,000, Liam, the submission that we made to HMRC, I believe, was 2016 to 20.
So it goes back over 4 years. Off the top of my head, I think that is 16 to 20. But we took advice from our accountants with how that is stated in our accounts, and we followed with that. And it wasn't a refund because VAT's been calculated wrongly. It was a refund because our VAT status had changed.
Yeah, so we didn't have to then go back and reinstate. We charged VAT correctly during that time, and that shows accurately in the accounts. But we took advice that we didn't then have to go and resubmit 5 years worth of accounts to Companies House because of the refund. So I hope that clears that up. Yeah. Any other questions that we've got?
So the next one is, could you briefly expand on what the operational overheads are and why they will increase significantly?
Yeah, absolutely. This might be one that me and Dave can do. So the operational overheads are essentially the cost of ODL HQ and what it actually costs to run the organisation behind the scenes. So overheads increasing may be staff salary increments. So we try to honour inflationary rises throughout the year on our staff pay scale. One of the items that Dave will cover a bit later is our website spend. Will also continue this year. As I mentioned, we stopped our website spend 18 months ago, and that website spend will now be picked it back up again because we need to spend money on our website. Plus the general cost of things goes up, and at the moment with inflationary rises, the cost of running the organisation just increases, so that our bills, our energy costs, our cost to run the charity will just go up as inflation rises as well. But the main increase in income this year will be the website spend, which we are now continuing, as opposed to when we stopped it during the 21-22 accounts.
So the question.
Mm-hmm.
So why has there been a fall in income between 2019 and 2022? And it says also not accounting for the COVID period in between, although that is directly and indirectly the key reason.
So why did our income drop from 2019 to this year? Yeah. Nice. This is a nice, super easy one. So when the pandemic hit in March 2020, OutdoorLads essentially cancelled our event program, including paid events, pretty much from March 2020 right through until when we re-established kind of paid events back in the summer of 21. So the only income that we received as an organisation was through membership income and through very kind donations from members. So much of OutdoorLads income comes through the paid events and from the bar. We just didn't have income through that period. So that kind of financial year up until March 2020 was kind of the last normal year of OutdoorLads cycle. And obviously the 2020 and 2020, especially 21, March 21, we had lower income.
So there's two staff ones actually.
Yep.
Are we still running an office? And if so, why aren't staff working from home? And two, are we giving our hardworking staff pay rises in line with the cost of?
Yeah, so it's just to be clear that we don't, this AGM sort of discuss our staff employment. We have a member of the trustees who is responsible for our staff, and we make decisions in terms of employment as a trustee board and as an employer. We don't make decisions on staffing at the AGM. We, as an organisation, where as possible, try to make sure that our employment terms and conditions are fair and appropriate as a salary. It has been difficult over this last couple of years, especially when we're looking at cost control, to try to honour inflationary rises and the pay scale schemes, which I say we have been able to do. We are all actively cautious and aware of the cost of living crisis that everyone is going through at the moment, but please be assured it is being managed by the trustee board and through the appropriate forums. Okay,
do the trustees have a view of what changes we would need to make to break even operationally or to generate a surplus? Is this being smarter about which events we run, increasing our charges, etc.?
So it's there's not going to be one sort of silver bullet that will kind of solve these things. We have to be very careful about considering things like inflation, rises of prices of events, especially in this climate when people are thinking about their income and making decisions. Do they want to spend money on an ODL event or do they need to pay for their heating? It's something which we are cautiously aware of. We have been quite successful in the last couple of years about being braver in terms of corporate sponsorship, and we've been really successful in getting that income. Obviously, it's not guaranteed, but many other charities have more aggressive approaches in terms of getting income from that regards. We do have to think carefully about the costs of running the organisation, because there are only so many levers you can pull, which is we either generate more income or you run slimmer as an organisation. I think we have to think about all the options that we have in terms of balancing the budget. I think there's a lot of traction and scope in external partnership funding, corporate sponsorships. It only would take a couple more North Face things for us to create a break-even budget. We will have a group, and one of our governance structures and one of the proposals going forward is that we have a review project, and we'll come on to this later when we talk about the strategy, specifically looking at the business model that we have as an organisation. And I guess if any members on the call this evening think, yeah, I would like to help Outdoor Lads through this journey, I have some ideas, some income generation, I have some ideas for budget things, we would love to hear it. Okay. Any final questions, Liam? Because I think we could probably wrap this section up and move to the vote on the accounts. Is there any specific questions on the actual accounts from last year? Because that is quite important, that if anyone has any questions specifically on the accounts, I know we've merged general finance chat and the accounts, but are there any specific questions on the accounts?
No, there's not specific questions on the accounts that I can see, no.
Okay.
No.
Super. Okay, well, thank you everyone for their questions on the finance. If we didn't get round to your question in terms of financial accounts, we will answer them afterwards. So unless actually I will do a quick check. Has anyone wanting to raise anyone got their virtual hand up on the accounts?
No, none I can see.
Nope. Okay, excellent. All right then. Well, we will, I think, conclude this section of the meeting then. So, as before, we will be asking you to vote for, against, or abstaining the approval of the audited 21-22 accounts. So once the members have approved these have gone through our external auditors, you will be able to kind of look through their comments, observations, and the accounts from last year. After this AGM, these will then be submitted to Companies House as per all the organisations going through the submission of the accounts. So yeah, we're asking you to vote for, against, or the approval of them. So Simon, can we fire up the poll, please? Excellent. Super. So please cast your ballots.
I think also to note, a massive thank you to Yvonne and Niels for the accounts as well. Just give them the credit.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I think that's absolutely right, Danny. So I think for the official minutes, I would like to make sure that we note our thanks as ever to our wonderful staff team who have to get all the paperwork ready for the audit. It's not a small task, and also the questions that go back and forward between the auditor and Outdoor Lads. So a big thank you to them. Right, so shall we get the numbers up, and then we will add them to the votes of the proxy that have been received.
So adding that to the proxy votes, we have 202 for, 1 against, and 31 abstentions.
Perfect.
They're approved.
Excellent, that's great. So thank you everyone who did that. The audited accounts for 21-22 are now approved, and these will go to the Companies House at the end of the year. Excellent. So thank you, everybody. And we are 4 minutes ahead of schedule, which is great. So that's the first section of the formal business of tonight done. We're now going to go through our kind of year in review, where we kind of have some reflection sides on how the organisation has performed in the last 12 months. We've got 3 sections to go through. Events and leaders, how we performed in that space. We'll then talk about members and how our membership numbers are looking, and then we'll finish off with a broad organisational update of things that we would find useful. So let's move on to the first slide, which is about our events and how we performed in that space. I believe this is a little bit of a double act between Dave and Danny, so over to you both.
Okay, so this is a snapshot of our event activity between the last AGM and the current one, so September 21 to August 22. So throughout that year, our main events remained walking, indoor climbing and socials, where walking and climbing accounted for 1/3 of our events each. Now, although walking appeals to a broader range of the membership, so 56% of members attended a walk, and only 16% of members attended climbing, we generally got better engagement per member for climbers compared to walkers. So a climber would typically do 8 events with us, a walker would typically do 4 events with us. Now, key value on there that's highlighted is the attendance, average attendance per event. Now, you know, walk and running was at 57% in the last 12 months, but we should note that the events were on average overbooked by 34%. So that means that we could fill the entire event plus 34% more on average for each event. Now, that's an improvement from the year before COVID, where we're up 8% on pre-COVID. And we've seen some improvements in that, partly due to the notification system, re-advertising spare places close to the event date. So we are running the events a bit fuller, but we're aware there is still an issue which we have with ensuring we can run the events full. Now, historically, we've had this problem since ODL started, where attendance has been between 40 and 60% for walks. We are looking at other approaches to help with this. So also looking at the numbers for hostel and camps, to note that hostels accounted for 3% of our events, or 5% of places, and campsites accounted for 2% of events and 4% of places, with 17% of members attending a hostel in that time. Okay, if we go on to the next slide, we can see how we've performed compared to the last full period pre-COVID. So we're comparing here the last AGM to AGM year with the last period we had before COVID hit us. So that's financial year ending March 2020. So you can see across the board, well, most of our events have recovered well and are actually performing better for a number of events and places used throughout, well, for all events apart from hostels, because of a lag in getting some of the events up and running again. We should note overall that the number of members using those spaces is down. So it's meant that in general, members have been able to attend more events per year each, and they're attending multiple types of events than they were before COVID. The online program has helped with that, but people are generally trying a bit more with a membership than they have historically. Okay, next one. Over to Danny.
Dave, thank you. Outdoor Lads, more than anything else, is built around our membership, for our membership. I think the biggest thing to recognise in Outdoor Lads is our leaders are integral to everything that we do. Between September 21 and August 22, we had 341 registered leaders. Of those, only 55% were active, which is quite a sad number. And this is always what we need to increase and what we need to work on trying to improve, so we can offer more events to more of our members. 46% of our events were run by 27 of our leaders. Those stats are more scary than anything else. And we've always had the program of let's just do 3 more events, 3 more walks, 3 more rides. And this is one thing that we really do need to dwell upon. The really positive news is that we had 41 new leaders across that time. 37 existing leaders were upskilled, and we had 81 applications submitted, which is a really positive view over a very difficult time that we've had. Again, to dwell on that figure, 46% of our events ran by 27 of our leaders. A huge thank you to every single one of you that have done that. But again, we need more leaders leading more events, and that's hopefully why a lot of you have engaged tonight, and hopefully we can look towards a more positive direction moving forward and get some more events. Matt, over to you in a second. These are all the leaders that we've got a special thank you for over the last year. So you'll see a range from climbing, hosteling, walking, socials, and more than anything, I think we need to acknowledge that our online events were developed over COVID, but there still is a place for them. And it's nice to see that those events are still happening. So if you see your name on the screen, massive thank you to you guys, which have really helped us move forward over the last year.
Super. Well, I think what we'll do actually is before we maybe move on to the members section, can we just go back a slide and we'll maybe sort of pause and take questions in this section. So obviously we've got a really the event program. I know we're sort of comparing it, we're kind of a little bit apples and oranges comparing periods of time, but obviously this is the first sort of cycle that we've been through in a normal event program. So the events are looking healthy, they're looking good. As Dave says, obviously there are some challenges that we need to think about as an organisation. The fact that walks are so oversubscribed, but actually on the day they're only 57% full. It's the classic story of crazy overbooking and then massive dropouts right up until the time of the events. So there are some challenges, and again, it would be wonderful to hear some suggestions and ideas from people going forward. The other quite scary stat, which I think is that one on the slide beforehand. We run 1,300 to 400 events a year. So that's nearly 600 to 700 events were run by just 27 people. That's really scary. For those 27 people, you are the bedrock of this organisation, and that achievement in itself is amazing. But as ever with a volunteer organisation, there is always a risk of volunteer burnout. People saying, do you know what? I'm going to have a year outside of Outdoor Lads. So I think the challenge and the things for all of us to think about is we need to take that burden of the 47% and spread it more across our leadership base. So a big thank you to those people, but indeed a bit of food for thought. We will pause there and see if anyone has any questions for us on the event program, and then we'll move on to the members and the organizational updates. Throw the floor out to the panel in terms of numbers.
So a couple of questions have come in. Have we surveyed the non-active leaders and as to why they're not engaging with the group? The answer is it is something that we're looking at. We're trying to make sure we do this in an appropriate manner with people to figure out what are the key things that are making people not lead. Is it people are struggling to put events on, they're struggling to use the website to do that? So yes, this is something that we do need to work on. Thank you.
And if you're a leader who hasn't led an event in a while and you're here at the AGM, we'd love to know your feedback. Is there anything that we can do as an organisation? Is it the website? Is it access to your regional coordinator? What is it that we can do as an organisation to help you put an event on to get it in the diary? Any other questions?
A very similar one. What are the reasons leaders have given for not being proactive? Have you demonstrated enthusiasm? The same thing again, we need a constant engagement program with our leadership to find out how we can change and evolve our approach to better support the leaders.
Okay, any more?
Someone's asked, are we making it really difficult for leaders to actually lead events? Very good question. And again, as a member-led organisation, we need feedback on what people are struggling with for us to change and evolve our approach to make this as easy as possible. Every single leader is also a member. So this organisation is delivered for you and by you. So we need your engagement to help us refine things moving forward.
But yeah, if there's any feedback that you have, and if you're sat on the call this evening thinking, yeah, do you know what, Outdoor Lads does make it really difficult for me to lead, we want to hear about why. Because if it's a barrier that's within our control, then we as an organisation need to be doing something about it. Okay, so all right then. Thank you, that's grand. We'll have some time at the end if anyone's got any more questions on leaders, but we'll now hand over to Joey. He's going to talk about how we've done performance-wise with our membership numbers over the last 12 months. Joey, over to you, please.
Thank you, Matt. So as you can see on this slide, currently we have 1,478 paid members, including 117 concession members. That is a plus of 41 since the beginning of this period, so since the last AGM. But we have lost 204. So we are gaining members, but we are almost losing as as many. So we've gained 348, lost 307, so net 41 gain. So we need to have a look at ways in which we can retain those people, because obviously we want to keep growing the organization. And if we're losing almost as many as we're joining, it's going to be a very slow period of growth. If you look over to the other side, we are having a lot of people sign up to the website, 2,137 new website signups. It's a lot of people obviously seeing our website, liking what we offer and signing up. However, 70% of those people are not coming on an event. That's not even trying one event and deciding it's not for them. They're not getting past their first event. There's a lot of reasons this could be. Part of it could be the problem which Dave alluded to earlier, with events being oversubscribed, but then being undersubscribed on the day. So people not being able to change their plans to come on an event at short notice. But we're looking at ways in which we can make sure that big number of 1,495 who didn't attend an event is considerably smaller. Next slide for me, please. So as you can see, membership levels pre-COVID were over 1,600. We are now lower than that. We had a big drop because of COVID. Obviously, there was a lot of reasons why people didn't continue their membership, but we are very grateful for the people who did during that period. And we have bounced back when we were allowed to open. You can see that the numbers after March and April of 2021 start to rise, but we have hit a plateau and we are not really gaining or losing members per month. We're very much level at the moment. Next slide for me, please. So in terms of how we're split across the regions, by far, you can see the most active region is the Southeast. Northwest has had the most new joiners, though, relative to its size. So it's lots of new people joining in the Northwest. Welsh membership is very low. And generally, what we tend to find is that Welsh events are very well subscribed and very popular, but they're people traveling from other regions. Okay. Next slide for me, please. Thank you. So in terms of the events that are attracting new joiners, it's walks and socials. Walks has twice as many as climbers. You can see in terms of new joiners, it very much is walking and climbing. Those are the two things that are drastically attracting people. And online cycling are towards the lower end of that. Thank you. Next one. So we are recovering from the pandemic. We do have a plateau, but we did have a nice bounce back once we were actually allowed to leave our houses. I remember that day, it was quite lovely. We're still attracting new members and they're joining in healthy members. But again, if we continue to lose members at a similar rate to they join, our growth is going to be very, very slow. And the main reason, as I've said, not enough events in my area. So we do need people, as we said in the previous section, please get involved. If the reason you're finding it frustrating on the website that you can't find an event in your area, then please make an event in your area, become a leader and help plug that gap in your area. Okay.
So, should we just we'll pause again, I think, for questions at this bit. I think this is quite nice. So thank you, Jerry, for taking us through that section there. We'll pause and see again, do we have any questions from the floor in terms of our membership performance over the last 12 months? Liam or any of the trustees who are manning the phones, are there any questions that you'd like to put to the panel?
There are questions flooding in at a rate of knots, I'm afraid, Matt. So some of them were still catching up from the leaders section just before. So let's just see if we can pick out anything to do with membership here. Just Liam or Dave, feel free to jump in if you spot one you want to throw in.
Matt Arnold has said, I believe there was a buddy program for new joiners. Yes, and we tried that at Big Spring Camp and it worked a treat. And it's something we're going to look forward, we're going to do further for other events and other the big events. We got really good feedback for that, and in fact the members who were on that event said it made the event for them, and they feel more welcome at big events. So yes, that's something we definitely do more in the future.
Super.
Dave, there's one possibly for you. It's saying from James Caldry, saying how confident are the board that the 2,300 website signups do not include spam or bots attempting to access personal data?
So we do have the office periodically, well, every week actually going through the new signups to check for ones which are obviously bots. Some of them are just random characters and do stand out. It can be difficult to spot all of them, but if someone hasn't come back, if someone hasn't responded to the validation email they get and clicked on a link, we do then discard those accounts after 3 months as well. So that number of signups that remain is people who've at least clicked on a link to validate their accounts, but then haven't gone on to actually do anything with us.
There's also a question for Rich. So do we have our own blogs and influencers on social media pages?
We don't have a blog. We have the Instagram is doing that for us. We find that blogs aren't really engaging as well as they should be. Influencers is actually a really good, interesting one. It was something we were discussing with the North Face campaign because they use influencers to obviously promote their products. And we were talking with them about possibly doing something for Outdoor Lads. It's in discussion, but it's very, very early days, and I'm not going to say that will happen. But yeah, but it's the blog. It's something to consider. It's just time consuming and getting the time to do that and actually put the articles on. But at the moment, the Instagram is doing quite well with that. But you're happy, definitely, something we're happy to look at and explore. Hope that helps.
So running with the theme of how can you get involved and what can you do to help the group, if you would like to be an Outdoor Lads influencer on social media, TikTok, Twitter, whatever, we would love to hear from you.
Definitely. In fact, the more content we can get from members, relevant content, the more useful it is for us to spread the word. So yeah, and it's actually part of the one of the plans going ahead is to the comms team is to liaise more with members to get them to naturally, organically create content for us that we can use to promote Outdoor Lads.
Thanks, Richard. Any other questions in this section that we want to ask the panel? I appreciate the team are beaving away behind the scenes answering questions as well, but is there anything we want to ask? And
I think there's some pointed questions which probably do relate to some of our strategy about how we look at increasing our membership. So I think some of these will probably be covered later on.
Okay, super.
One here, Matt, which is probably from Greg House, who's saying, could a place on each event be reserved for new members to take up to give priority to them?
That's an interesting policy idea. I think that the two areas that obviously, which is we need, one of the bits of feedback that we do hear from especially new members is the fact that signing up to events can be quite a tricky process to go through, but also we've got things from existing members around there isn't enough events kind of in their area. It's a policy consideration. It's an interesting one. I would be interested to throw that challenge down to our regional coordinators and organisers because we could come up with a policy idea, but I don't know if that would work in the regions or not. So that's an interesting one. I'll ask the board to not the board necessarily, but the regional coordinators to take that away to see is that a suggestion that might help in terms of the regions. Oh, we've stopped screen sharing, but that's fine. We will get the presentation back up in a second. But I do think there is an interesting challenge there for all of us, which is around we as an organisation are still getting a decent amount of individuals coming to Outdoor Lads, signing up, getting profiles, getting up to a signed member. So 300 people coming in, but there is 300 people each year who are not continuing their membership with us. And then we could get that number down. How can we get, if we can get that 300 people who aren't renewing down, then we suddenly got a growth exponential coming in. So a bit of a challenge for all of us to think about there. Right, well, let's move on to the last section then in terms of the organizational updates. Which is kind of just about sort of happenings in terms of the running of Outdoor Lads that we thought we'd update you on. So we are all just on time. So Dave, nice and swiftly, please, through this section.
So I'm sure many of you remember in 2018, Microsoft built our new website 3.0, went live in March and was running on quite well. Unfortunately, early 2021, Microsoft was bought out by Investis, Our contract did roll over to the new company. However, we found as we went through the year that we weren't getting the level of service that we actually wanted from the new former company. So in autumn of 21, we went out to tender to try and find a new supplier who can take our quite customized version of the website on Drupal and still work with us in supporting our needs as a charity rather than as a big corporate. And big thanks here to Richard Reed, who took that on for us and spent many hours dealing with many companies trying to make sure they met our needs. On the end, this spring, we selected Adaptive. Now, they've got a history of working with other charities and non-profits and were the most engaged of all of the different suppliers for getting the new website on board and understood exactly what we needed. They also agreed to take over the whole of the website, so from the website itself right down through to the hardware, and manage that on our behalf, so it's much easier for us from a support perspective. Now, you may have noticed we had an outage early September as we migrated over to the new hardware, and there's been a bit of a speed increase since then. So Adaptive will be working with us for the next few months to help resolve some of the maintenance things that are built up through since the start of 2021. So there's Drupal updates, PHP updates, and a few various other service packs we need to put on. This work's likely to go on to the towards December, but then after that time, we'll then have free development time to start expanding the website again to meet the needs and to deal with the new functionality that comes out of the various strategy streams, which we'll be discussing later on in the presentation. Okay, future work we prioritise via a systems and data working group for which people will be welcome to join if they want to work together with us. So we can take a broader view of all of our technology requirements, not just the website, also things around SharePoint and other functionality around Telegram, etc. And so we can get better engagement from members on this. Okay, next slide, please. So things you don't necessarily see day to day. We've been doing work behind the scenes to improve the systems we use for doing board reporting and managing our financial situation. So you notice there's a lot more data appearing in the slide pack, which has all come out from those new systems we have in place. It's also ensuring we have more reliable information going to the accountants at year end, so hopefully it results in fewer corrections year to year, and allows us to see during the year exactly how much money we've received and spent on every event as we go, and gives an early indication if things are starting to go awry, rather than having to wait for year ends, which we're having previously. For things you see more directly, you may have noticed if you've been on big events that we started doing notification and chat channels specifically for big events. They've been working very well at big events. Generally, we've had around 50% engagement on the chat groups, very popular for sharing photos, but they've also been used by selected members for hostels, day walks, etc. Generally have engagement of 50 to 95% of attendees on those events, and they're being generally well received by attendees. If you want to create your own chat rooms, you can do these through the Marvin Telegram bot. Information is available on the website under Leader Technology Tools. You'll see we've also been trialing car sharing apps. And now we're using external app for this at the moment. It's starting to work on big events, but we'd like to try and get better usage of that tool. When we get an idea of how people use it, we will try and get that functionality put into the website, but we're still in a test phase. Please bear with us, provide feedback as to how the car sharing works, and we'll try and get a tool that meets your needs. Also, the Marvin Telegram bot has been well received by the leaders who use it regularly. There's 209 registered users, though admittedly it's only around 35, 40 users who use it on a regular basis. It's good for doing your attendance, next week in data, and creating your personal chat rooms, etc., and getting your live engagement with your members on your event rather than relying on a website chat. Now, if we go on to the next slide, please. So this shows you the relative engagement levels with Telegram throughout for all regions that we have, and also on the big events. So green here is the notification channels, red here is the interactive chat channels. Now you can see that the Southeast and Southwest and Scotland have got very good engagement on the chat channels as well as notifications, and Southeast and Scotland are ones which stand out as being very active channels used for members. If you're looking for a way to reach out to other members in your region, please use these channels. There's a lot of people there who you can contact to help you plan your events and get better engagement in your region. Okay, go to the next slide. So here we can see the relative engagement for our social media platforms relative to Telegram. you can see, Telegram has been taken on very well in all regions, but we do still have good engagement on Facebook and Twitter, just not to the same level as we do on Telegram. Do a special shout out to Scotland, because they have been working very hard on their Twitter feed and they have very good engagement, far better than any other region. So Alan Dunn's worked very hard on curating that feed and getting a good member community running in that area. Okay.
Super. Oh, great. Thank you, Dave. Yes, and a big shout out to Scotland for their work in there. That's great. We are slightly over, and I want to make sure we've got enough time for the next segment. So is there any briefly where we can just pull out 1 or 2 questions in terms of Dave's update, or just anything on the organisational updates? What I will say, whilst the board are hunting some questions for the panel, the new website platform that Dave talked about there, our website and our server costs are one of the second highest costs to Outdoor Lads in terms of running the group. It costs us about £30,000 to £35,000 a year to run that website in terms of updates, bringing it updated. It's a big cost to the organisation. So when sometimes members say, oh, you know, what do we pay for? What does the membership fee go for? Why do we sometimes have to kind of do events? It's because, you know, the fact the group has a nice website, but it does cost us money to run. It's in the region of £30,000 to £35,000. So it's a reasonable cost to the group. Oh, I think we've just lost the slides. So, Danny, we can take 1 or 2 questions and then we'll move on.
Yeah, a question here from Steve Clifford. I think this one might be one for you, Dave. So it's just saying how many new pay-as-you-go members use the 2 free event coupons to sign up? And he's referenced that on events that he's led, new members often don't even realise they have them, and maybe that's why people sign up but don't actually join anything. Don't know whether any of your data can back that up.
I would need to run a query on that. Generally, the coupons do seem to be very well used. I can give you an exact number on that, but generally I haven't heard of that being an issue, and the volumes I'm seeing being used doesn't indicate there's an issue, but I can certainly check. Okay.
Well, we can always get that in the meeting notes after. Okay. Any other questions, Danny? But I'm cautious that we do move on to the.
So a question from Mark Dooley saying, does anyone follow up with a personal email to potential new members who do not attend an event, and could we offer some kind of a buddying to help those people engage and come along?
I think it's a lovely idea. That obviously will involve all of our leaders. I'm myself a leader, and I think it would be actually a really nice thing actually if we did. It's a good suggestion. Obviously it's difficult for us to kind of say yes, it's going to be a policy, but I think we'll take that idea away and see whether or not we can get our leader community to do that, because, you know, I've got an event coming up in a couple of weeks which I'm leading. I'd happily follow up a message with a new person to make sure that they understand what's going on and they come to the event after. But there might be something which, again, we can think about in terms of our coupons.
We do actually send out 3 emails to new joiners, which are tailored depending on if they've attended an event or not, and give them pointers for using coupons, how they can find events, etc. And Dan looks after that.
Super. Right, let's now move on to the next section. So thank you to Dave, Joey and Danny for taking us through our kind of year in reflection. We now come on to a really important part of the meeting this evening, and I think it's quite right that we take some time this evening to remember 2 individuals who won't be joining us this evening. Sadly, this year we lost 2 very loved members, Rob and John. And I want to take a few moments this evening, taking some time to remember these 2 wonderful members of our community. So I'd like to invite Neil Sharp. So if Simon, if we could give Neil speaking rights, if we need time to sort that out, I'll do John's section first. And Neil is going to say a couple of words about Rob. So Danny, can we move to the next slide? Neil, hopefully you have the virtual speaking mic.
I do, and can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome.
We can hear you, Neil.
Thank you very much. So just looking at this photo was a really hard photo to look at, because it's an honour to be given the chance to spend a minute or 2 reflecting and remembering my friend, our friend and friend of Outdoor Lads, Rob Dawson. And I think, I know, like me, many of us are still in disbelief that he's no longer with us. You know, only the other day I was spring cleaning my WhatsApp chats, and there he was in my feed with loads of stuff, you know. I don't think I'll ever delete those funny, often very cheeky, sometimes rude, yet always kind and heartwarming conversations with a really special guy. I know that I'm not alone when I talk about how much I miss Rob and him being part of my life. And I know that many of you miss him being part of Outdoor Lads. And it's because it's the organisation that has forged so many special friendships with people like him. You know, we refer to it as our ODL family, and there's never a truer phrase. Too young, too soon is a phrase I hear really often when people reflect on Rob. And to quote James Pointing, one of Rob's closest ODL friends, he said, I keep expecting him to just reappear and yell surprise, and it's all a big bad dream, and sadly it's not. So, you know, on Outdoor Lads events, Rob was always the person who made everybody feel very welcome, and the beauty that he had from inside and from within always made everyone feel contagiously happy and very much included. So thank you for being you, Rob, as part of our lives and part of Outdoor Lads. There's a big piece missing without you that we'll never replace, yet you will forever be a reason for us to pour a very large gin and tonic and raise a toast to Rob.
So I think grab your drinks, everybody, to Rob.
To Rob.
Thank you, Neil. Right, let's see if we can get through the next section. So next slide, please, Danny. The second member that we want to say our thanks tonight is to John Stewart, who was a trustee of Outdoor Lads for a number of years. John was a really popular member of our community and a trustee on the board when I was quite new to the world of Outdoor Lads. We talked about the VAT refund earlier. It was actually John's original suggestion that Outdoor Lads consider a VAT status refund. And though it was future treasurers who took that project on, and it was the other members who took it forward, the fact that we have this wonderful financial reserve, the fact that the charity is in a really good position, is really thanks to John's initial suggestion a number of years ago. I'll share a good little story about John, which I will always remember him for. So when I was reasonably new to the charity, reasonably new on the trustee board, we were at Northwest Christmas, and what happened at Northwest Christmas was the fire alarm went off, and at about 2:30 in the morning we all traipsed outside into the car park in various states of dress and soberness, and then it started raining, and at that point I was a little bit worse for wear and was propped up by John next to a car whilst it was raining. And it was just one of the funniest moments that at that point, Stephen and Chris decided to do a fire register from people's usernames. And at one point, Hairy Otter 69 was called out as a username. And it was just one of the funniest moments that I'll remember about Northwest Christmas. And just that moment of me and John that we spent together on that event. Just before John sadly passed away earlier this year, himself and his husband Neil contacted Outdoor Lads as they wanted to make a donation to the charity as part of John's will to be used for leadership and development or something within that space, which the board is now working on a proposal to announce to the members later this year. I think the outpouring of love and support that we saw when John passed away from colleagues from many years, from his work in various councils at Manchester Pride and his more recent work with the Housing Association, showed how much that he was a loved individual, and he will be deeply missed. So our second cheers this evening I would like to make is to our John Stewart. So cheers, John. Right, thank you, everybody. Right, we now come on to the strategy section for this evening then, which clearly is that we've had a fantastic audience this evening and everyone wants to come along to hear about what is going on into the strategy work. I think before we start on this segment then, I want to start off with a thank you to everybody who really has got involved in the conversations about the strategy since we launched the early draft of it in July. We had an amazing engagement through the survey. We had a really good turn up through the 6 or 7 online consultations that we did. For those that came to the Peaky Weekender, I think about 60 or 70 of you came along to that. And this conversation and the discussions about the strategy have been, I think, the biggest that the organisation has had since really our conception as a group in 2006 and 7. And has really, I think, captured people's enthusiasms, thoughts, fears, concerns about what they think the organisation should be doing going forward. One of the things as we go into this next section is, and I'm sure there's going to be lots of thoughts, views, opinions, concerns, aspirations about this. Let's just be mindful, please, of each other in this space in terms of the tone, the language, how we conduct ourselves. We are all members of this charity. We all want to work to see us working towards a similar direction. I know, especially over the last couple of days, there has been a number of debates, a number of discussions and debates happening in different forums, but let's just be mindful of each other going into this section here. So the first thing we're going to kick off with then is Rich is going to take us through essentially the journey we are today and where are we in the journey of the strategy. So Richard, over to you.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, so you've got my voice for a few minutes, and I apologise for the Birmingham tone. But yeah, so what I'm going to be doing in the next few minutes is just talking about the journey we've been through over the last year. This actually started a year ago, and I don't think a lot of people realise that. And it's as Matt said, it's been an absolute mental year. It's been a year of just conversations, chats, discussions. It's been enlightening. It's been passionate with comments. It's just been an absolute. Well, it's just been like an absolute eye-opener of how passionate and engaged members are of Outdoor Lads. So thank you to everybody again to copy Matt's word. Thank you to everybody so far who's got involved. This is just the start of the process. We've gathered all this data, we've gathered the information, we put proposals together. This is just the start of the journey. So what I'm going to do next is just talk about where we were, as I said a year ago, where we are today, and what the outcomes are of the consultation and how we're looking. So I guess where we start, we'll talk about the strategy project, the consultation, and the outcomes then. Yeah, exactly. So if I start to waffle on, start talking about Care Bears or something, just somebody give me a shout, you know what I'm like. So perfect, right. So let's jump back to the AGM in 2021. That's when the trustees at the time, I was on the board then, announced the launch of the new strategic project to look at a long-term sustainable plan for Outdoor Lads. The key of that was also to look at supporting and growing the membership while still achieving Outdoor Lads charitable objectives. And going forward, that was always the key, that we keep the objectives in mind, and we always, we don't change that, we just move forward and enhance it. So initially we had consultations with members about the same time last year, just to get the feeling of how people are feeling. And it was actually that data or that information we was able to take forward to start the ball rolling on this process. So that was in August time. So jump ahead 3 months to a very cold and grey January weekend, and the board all came together. And as I said, using the feedback from those member sessions, was able to begin and formulate a proposal or project or how we can move forward, how we should be looking at forward. A key goal of that session was for us as both members and trustees to take a hard look at the charity and how it's run, what strengths, what its weaknesses, and also look at the historic data to hand of what the challenges that have faced the charity in the past, and what risks are out there, and really getting underneath the nail, getting to the nitty gritty and finding out what the risks are, and we need to look at high level strategy. It all needs to be high level thinking. We need to think long term. We need to think of the next 10 years, really, and that's how all big brands and businesses do. So that was actually a weekend in Jan. It was a very hectic weekend, as in a lot of thinking, a lot of brainstorming. At one point, after about 1,000 coffees, Joey made us do an impromptu Zumba session, which after all those coffees was quite interesting. But we left that project, and we got the initial scopes of the project, and it was able to come together and then develop that. And then from those thinkings, the top level thinkings, we was able to start working on the initial key projects. The key projects are the really exciting thing that are coming out of this strategy, the work groups, which we'll talk about later and go into more detail. These were the defining items that make Outdoor Lads even better than it is today. They'll be looking at membership, leadership, and the governance of the charity. And it's all about looking inwards and trying to review where we are and improve what we're doing and push forward. So a few months later, we put all this data together and we had the strategy, and then that's where we launched it. Obviously, I've seen a lot of people on the chat tonight who were involved in that strategy, and I know that a lot of you had opinions and thoughts, and you give fantastic feedback and advice, and we've taken that forward. Obviously, we did the 6 Zoom sessions, and then we did, as Matt said earlier, the Peaky Weekend consultation, which was, there's 70 people come walking past me and Matt at that session. It was quite daunting seeing those people coming in, but it was actually one of the most constructive sessions I've ever done. And it was the feedback was amazing. I know, yeah, there's negatives and pros for both sides, but it was all constructive, and people were able to learn and listen to each other, and it worked really well. So, from also on that, sorry, we had the Zoom sessions. We also had the consultation email, which we had over 60 responses, and we had obviously the annual survey, which we had the extra strategy element to get feedback from that. Just a few stats from that. I think you already know this. You're probably bored of hearing our voices about this, but over 550 people filled out that survey. We received over 600 emails, 60 emails, and very detailed thoughts and very nice things. And we've tried to take as much data out of that which we can use for the strategy. There's still much more to do, and we'll be still asking for more people's help along the way. The consultation ended in July, and it took a few weeks to go through it. And we actually mentioned that email before, and I feel like it's prudent to mention it again. These are the 7 things we brought out from that consultation that are important to know. I'm going to go through the vision, the values, and the mission after this section, but we'll go for this now. So number 1, members were in favour of the proposed vision of the strategy. Members were broadly in favour of the new mission. There was strong feedback to remove the allies as a target group. Members were in favour of the 5 new values of Outdoor Lads: the welcoming, adventurous, togetherness, excellent, and respectful. There was not an overall consensus to expand our beneficiaries to the broader LGBT community. It was literally a 50-50 split, which obviously a lot of you know about. Members were very supportive, and this was a huge thread about Outdoor Lads removing barriers to outdoor pursuits. Members wanted a simpler process to become a leader. Again, something we're going to be looking at in the new work groups. And members were supportive of an organisation rebrand. So all these findings, all this feedback, we presented the vision, mission, and values at the first stage, and we got this feedback back, and then we revised it. And the biggest thing that has changed is the mission statement. We've kept the key phrase that people was from the first Zoom session to the last was the word allies. It was a bugbear. And a lot of people have made some very constructive reasoning why it shouldn't be in there. And as a board, we took that on board and we removed it. We've also done some tweaking of the structure of that, thanks to a lot of members' feedback about the sits. But overall, we're in a good place with the vision, mission, and values. So the vision, I'll read it out. I'm sure you've all read it, is the freedom to be yourself in the outdoors. The mission, to deliver inclusive and inspiring outdoor events to improve the well-being of the LGBTQ+ communities across the UK. And the values, which genuinely, this was an accident, but it spells the word water, but it was all backwards until we realised it. Welcoming, adventurous, togetherness, excellent, and respectful. This is all from listening from members and bringing it forward. This is an engaged project where we've absorbed as much feedback as we can, and we still want to do more. This is where we're comfortable. And if we move on to the next slide, please, Danny. And then from there, we've got the 3 key objectives. As I said at the very start, these are the things that we want to really push. These are the things where we're going to look at leaders. We're going to look at the approval process. We're going to look how the members are engaged, the journey the member goes on, appealing to wider audiences, appealing to different diversities, different backgrounds. This is where these come into play. And this is where we need members to engage with us and work with us to deliver this. The board is only 12 people. We need help on this. And this is where we've asked for volunteers to join us on this. And Emma will be talking about it later. But this is where the change in Outdoor Lads will happen. So there's 3 objectives. We call them work groups. There's many projects within those work groups. I'm not going to discuss that, but that one goes to the next team. But in the members, we will make our organisation more inviting, diverse, and inclusive. It's clear cut. We need to work harder at that. Events, we will do what we do best, delivering great events, and we do deliver great events, but we can again work harder. And in organisation, we will be an inclusive and well-run organisation, run by us, for us. There's a lot of work to be done, and it's something that I believe as a group, and we all come together, we can do perfectly. And we need to again speak to me afterwards. But yeah, I think this is where we can move forward. So thank you. I think that's it.
Great, super. Thank you, Rich. So can we just go just back to the next slides, just for a few moments of reflection before we start talking about the main projects and the main pieces of work here. I think I will really emphasize what Richard has said in that last session, which is the feedback and the consultation responses from members. Over the summer, all of us as trustees waded through hundreds and hundreds. I think there was about, from the survey in total, just shy of 700 to 800 individual comments that were given by members, listening back over the consultation sessions and really trying to pull out the key themes, the key things that members were wanting to hear as part of that. So I hope that what we have settled on and what we've considered in terms of the organisation's, its mission, its vision and its values are reflected of those conversations that we've had during the summer. As now we're going to go into talking about some of the individual projects and some of the individual areas, I will just do a little bit of framing that this has been a difficult project to take forward. And I think we'll put our hands up and say this has not been an easy exercise to do. The consultation we started off, we wanted to be open, we wanted to be honest, we wanted to really hear about what the views of the members have. And in lots of areas, there's lots of really good alignment. Members were very positive, talking about the areas that Richard was talking about. But there clearly has been a division of opinion, specifically on the inclusivity element, and should we be open to the LGBTQ community. Again, to be open and honest, when we saw those consultation results, it would be really easy if the vast majority of the members were in favour of this. Fantastic, we would crack on. And if the vast majority of the members were against this, we would have done a change of direction. But we found ourselves in a position over the summer where we had that 50-50 split. And what hopefully we're going to try to present to you over the next couple of slides is how we as a board and as an organisation have responded to that position of this division of opinion within the members, which we hope is a fair representation of trying to listen to different sides of the discussion on this. So with that in mind then, and thank you, Rich, for taking us through the journey and the headline mission, vision and values, we're now going to talk very briefly about our 3 deliverable areas in terms of the members, the events and the organisational improvements. So I think we will start off then with the members in terms of the projects that we want to do around membership. So Fergus, I will hand over to you for this section.
So I think the earlier discussion from Joey really hit the nub on the present problem. We're getting a decent number of people, gay, bi, transsexual men, etc., coming onto the site, but we're not converting them at the rate that we would like to. And we're looking at the whole process of how we engage with that. And in reality, I think that's where we're going to need your support. One of the things I was listening to buddies being discussed. I think we'll also be looking at entry-level events, and we're looking at targeted approaches to bringing people to those entry-level events and events for new people. I think, as much discussed, the existing volunteer group is really working flat out on day walks, etc. In the southeast, I can't name check the right person, apologies, but we have some fantastic social leaders who are really supporting membership growth. There's a great guy down in Southampton who's doing that for us, and there's Ian working on that. in Brighton, and that really gets us engaging people right from the beginning and bringing them into the group. So that will be a big part of it. And I think, as we know, also from what was suggested earlier, we have some questions over how we retain people. So we'll be working on that. And again, one of the fundamentals on that is broadening the event base, particularly opening up areas where we're weak. So there may be some big cities in the country and some big urban areas where we would like to get a much stronger leader and volunteer base. And again, we might well be looking to start that with more on the social side, with short walks, etc., just to get us going. But those are the kind of things that we're particularly looking to drive that. And again, clearly, we would like to be much more successful within the ethnic minorities and with people with disabilities. And Joey will be touching on some of that later, but we have quite extensive plans in those areas as well. I think that hopefully covers most of it.
Super, thank you, Fergus. So yeah, that's just a very brief summary of the projects here. Again, a theme that will be running all throughout this this AGM tonight is that we cannot do these projects alone. And at the end of this section of the presentation, we'll be talking about opportunities for people that want to get involved in helping us to deliver these things. So these are the 4 key projects that we as an organisation are wanting to focus on in terms of our membership. So thank you, Fergus, for taking us through those. Right, the next section then, events. So Joey, I think this is, sorry, no, it's Danny, my apologies, Danny's starting us first. So Danny, over to you, the event stream.
Thanks very much, Matt. Okay, so good evening, everyone. So as the headline says for this one, for the event strand of the strategy, it's basically we want to do more of what we do best, and that's delivering our great events that everyone hopefully enjoys across their membership for however many years they've been a member or involved with Outdoor Lads. So the strategy is split across 4 strands, as you can see there. So focusing on our day or free event program, the paid events, including our big events as well, leaders and sort of engagement with them, and also moving on with Joey in a short second onto the partnerships and joint events with LGBTQ+ groups. So the kind of I guess the main focuses of these particular projects are looking at sort of key themes that have come up that we know members have reported and had issues with. So, for example, the churn on day events, and that's come up a number of times in the chat and the questions and answers this evening so far. So one of the elements of one of the projects here is looking at how we can better deal with that anomaly of sort of events filling up and then emptying out in the run up to the event happening. It's not always about the weather, so we just obviously need to try and make sure we can encourage people to be sensible with their event bookings, so that it ensures that there are spaces for other people to join on. With our paid events program, there's going to be a focus on making sure that it's good value for money. A lot of the things we've talked about in the accounts and financial sections earlier on was about event costs and how those costs obviously need to be controlled, and we need to have good value for money on those to make sure that the paid event program pays its way essentially for what it provides. And the same goes for our big events, which essentially is to provide income to the charity via those handful of big events plus the bar revenue that comes in as a result. And lastly, we're looking at leaders and how we can engage with those existing leaders. Again, lots of questions have come up on the Q&A about how we can engage with dormant leaders, how we can empower them to get to upskill if they want to, and to either renew qualifications or gain extra qualifications for the benefit of the charity, and to basically enable them to put more events on, therefore providing more space for more members. And we get into this cycle of 3 more that we've often talked about, where if we have more leaders, we have more events, and we therefore have more members, and the cycle repeats and on from there. So my closing point just on this slide is just to say, if you are a leader already and you're not leading, please talk to us, and we want to try and work out the barriers that are stopping you from leading or that are making you feel like you don't want to lead. If you're interested in leading, please speak to your regional coordinator or other leader in your region. Let's get you through, get you approved, and let's get some events live from your perspective. That could be anything from a social event right the way up through to mountaineering if you're appropriately qualified to do so and passed to do so. We basically need everybody across the whole spectrum of the event programme. And that's all. Thank you very much, Matt.
Super. Thank you, Danny. So I think a really good focus here, and I think something which I would like to highlight and link back to one of the previous slides, especially around that day event program. So one of the things that we maybe as a board and as an organisation often will focus in on those hostels and camps events. They generate a nice amount of income for us, and we know that they are quite popular. But we know the vast majority of our members are engaging with the charity through the day event program. So walks, climbs, biking, social events. And I think it's fair to say as an organisation, we've maybe taken our eye off the ball in terms of the resource and the time that we're thinking, have we got a really good day event programme available to our members? So I think that's something which I'm really pleased to see, that actually as an organisation, we really should be thinking about how do we resource and get the day event programme happening. So some really, really good stuff there. Super. Thank you, Danny. So we're now going to move on to a couple of slides, which is around delivering our inclusive events. And we know that a lot of the conversation leading up to the AGM has really focused on this element. And we have heard, you know, through the feedback from our members that maybe our clarity and what we are actually proposing in terms of practicalities, we weren't as clear of. And so hopefully in this section here, Joe is going to take us through what the actual proposals are. So Joey, over to you.
Thank you, Matt. So firstly, I just want to say that not only personally, but as a board, we are incredibly appreciative as to how passionately everyone has responded to the consultation. Anyone who works professionally with consultations knows that it's very hard to get even 10% of people to respond in membership, and we had considerably more than that. So it is lovely to see people getting involved, regardless of which side of the fence you casted your vote on during the consultation. We are very much appreciative for your feedback. There's been many late nights back and forth, working out the best way in which we can devise this strategy to cover the concerns of both camps. So I want to start off with our Articles of Association. They are on your screen at the moment. I will read them word for word. So, to promote the benefit of the inhabitants of the United Kingdom, in particular, not exclusively gay, bisexual, transsexual and transgender communities without distinction of sex, sexual orientation, race, political, religious or other opinions, by associating together the residents of the area of benefit, the local and public authorities, voluntary and other organisations in a common effort to provide facilities in the interest of social welfare for the recreation and leisure time occupation with the object of improving the condition of life for said inhabitants. Those have been our Articles of Association since the 1st of October 2008, and they have not changed since then. So using our articles as the bedrock, this is what we propose. Next slide, please, Annie. So events. We will expand and develop the events program for GBT men. Whether it's Big Spring Camp, Gay Ski Week, or one of Skip's fantastic hostel weekends in the Peak District, you will still be able to do the events you know and love. We're just going to do more of it. So you can log on to the website and find a space at an event near you, because we appreciate a lot of events sell out very quickly and it can be hard to find spaces on some of the smaller events. So we're going to do more of the same and we're going to do it better. Partnership events. We will run partnership events offering a wider LGBTQ inclusion. We've already had some success with this. We've done a switchboard walk with the charity switchboard in August, and we want to offer these exclusive events to give outsiders a chance to experience the ODL magic and hopefully attract more members to help support us going forward. We'll also be doing pilot events. So we're inviting leaders willing to help run partnership events and other inclusive events. We are ultimately a member-led organization. So the events program will always be a result of what you vote for by turning up. Events that are not successful aren't going to get run again, and events that are successful will. We're asking leaders to try inclusive events. If the membership happily supports 10 events a year, then fantastic. If we find the demand for inclusive events goes up, we'll facilitate that. What we as a board want to do is find the correct level within ODL that is natural and sustainable by the members. That might be the case that in 10 years' time, every single event is fully inclusive, or it might be 25% of events are fully inclusive. What it looks like at the end is entirely up to members and how members want ODL to look. And that's by turning up to events, that's by choosing to lead events. What we're asking for is for you to help us find out what that end product looks like. We're going to review this year on year and adapt what we can do to make ODL the best organization it can possibly be. But we're asking that you give us a year in order to properly explore and discover what that option and what that looks like. Next slide, please. So I want to also make sure that it's important to remember this is not entirely about gender. For inclusivity to work, it must include people from different socioeconomic backgrounds, different faiths, different religions, different ethnicities, and it also must include people who have different levels of physical and mental assistance on our events. So in talking about some of that, we're going to be doing a lot more things with other organizations to help make us more attractive to and more welcoming of people from different backgrounds. In terms of accessibility on events, we're also going to be asking leaders to consider accessibility from the outset on events. So whether that's a slight route change that might make the event more accessible, or actually designing an event specifically from scratch with a specific accessibility in mind. We have 1,300 events a year, and at the moment, we don't log any of them for accessibility. We might have quite a lot of events that tick a certain box. So we might have events that are very good for people who struggle with social anxiety. We might have events that work very well for people who are in a wheelchair. There's lots of different ways in which events can be graded, and obviously accessible is a very different word for different people, because obviously everyone has a different barrier to accessing Outdoor Lads. But we want to make sure that the criteria when an event is created is selective enough that when a leader ticks all these boxes, they know they can label their event as accessible to A, B, C. Okay, so that's how we want to try and get events being created, and hopefully some of our back catalogue will be accessible, but we want to start creating those specific events as well. We also want to make it clear that members can make reasonable adjustments and ask for them. The team in the office and the leaders are not going to turn you away if they can. They will do everything in their power to make sure everyone has a good time. But there are some events that we have external contractors on, and it might not be up to us. But again, we will do everything within our power to make sure that you can be included on an event. Please ask, and we will try and make it feasible for you to come on an event. Any person who abides by our core beliefs and wants to help foster a positive culture will be welcomed on any event. So we will be allowing members to make safe space events for as long as they feel that they are needed. So this could be a lesbian climbing event. It could be a neurodivergent board game weekend. It could be a gay fell running day. It's anyone who feels that they need a safe space to be themselves within their protected characteristic and put on an event. They will have a particular focus, and hopefully they will encourage people to turn up to these events in a place that is a bit more secure and help them feel able to explore and access themselves. They might not be able to explore in a bigger inclusive group. However, as is the case and has always been the case, we will not turn anyone away from an event. We have never done it before, and we will not start doing it now. Okay, next slide, please. I am done. Thank you very much.
Great, super. Thank you, Joey, for taking us through that. And I hope and I wonder, Dan, if you can just take us back 2 or 3 slides, just very briefly. One more. Oh, that one there. Perfect. I thought Joey's done an excellent job at hopefully clarifying what is it that we as an organisation are promoting. And I hope that if anyone coming into this AGM potentially was confused by what is the proposal on the table, I really hope this slide has helped clear things up for you in terms of what we are proposing as an organisation going forward. We talked about right at the start about how we have tried to find this balancing act between the views of members that come through on the consultation to try to find a position which we think works. And this, in a sense, is our pitch to you all of how we are trying to tackle these this situation that we found ourselves in. So I hope that is clear to everyone. So let's crack on then. We will come back to this again in a second. But I'm going to hand over to Simon, who I hope you found some voice. I think you might be doing it as a double effort with Emma, but just in terms of the last project strategy that's looking at our organisational projects. So Simon and Emma, I think I will hand over to yourselves.
Yes, thank you, Matt. Sorry, I've been gargling with seawater and doing all the other things you're supposed to do to try and get your voice back. So, as you can see, our first 3 projects that are listed there are all around our finances. And unfortunately, Niels can't be with us this evening to expand on those. So do forgive me because I'm not an accountant. But the broad idea is to build ourselves into a financially sustainable future, looking at sort of 5 to 10 year time frames. Sorry, a lot of what we're intending to do with this is to invite members into effectively working groups to help us develop up these projects. So I'm going to talk to those first 3, for example, on the budget, the financial controls, and the commercial opportunities. Is anyone who's got any kind of background in these things, or even is just particularly interested in helping us to develop things like commercial opportunities and so forth, we'd absolutely love to have you as part of the next few months as we start building towards how these things will look, especially on things like improving financial controls and systems and so forth. So if you've got a background in, say, commercial or accountancy, that would be super to have you into that. Again, it's going to be the same for the next few things. I mean, a big one on there, which I think all of you can see, is Project 14 on the rebrand. Obviously, rebrand was something that was discussed as part of that. So that part of that strategy. I'm so sorry. Part of that strategy. And whilst we did put forward the possibility of simply reducing it down to, say, ODL, similar ways that the Youth Hostel Association become YHA and various other things. We got quite a lot of feedback on it, and talking to people who are more expert in this kind of thing, we agreed that actually the best thing to do would be to have a bit of a longer term think about this, and again set up a bit of a working group, bring together people who've got experience in that realm to find what is the right branding for us, what is the right way forward, and how do we get to that. I do think that the other 2 on there, which is Project 12 and 13, those are the ones which Emma and I are probably the closest to. My pardon me, my background in project management and sponsorship with a large organisation is around governance for a multi-billion-pound project. And one of the things we want to try and do is to make things like these projects and all the things we want to do more open to getting in the right skill set from across the membership, trying to get the right outcomes for the long-term viability of the organization, because we in the board can't do everything. We can't be all things to all people, and it only makes sense to bring in sort of experience and skills from across our amazing membership to help us to do things like this. So as you can see, again, we've talked about things like the integration with pardon me, with the financial controls, creating a risk management system to help us support our leaders to make sure that actually the events we're running are obviously fun, exciting, challenging, but are done safely, so that you can go on them and know that it's going to be a good time, but you're going to be safe, kind of thing. And just generally streamlining operational and strategic processes, making it so that we're able to, pardon me, I'm so sorry. Emma, could you help me here a second?
Certainly, well done, Simon, for getting this far. So I think what Simon's really saying is this is the backbone that helps us hopefully run as efficiently and effectively as possible, minimizing any risk to the organisation, complying with our minimum requirements as a charity, but actually more importantly, to enable everyone to do more and to do better. And that's really, I think, what Project 13 around the focus of culture is with our values. We want to really embed our behaviours across the organisation and ensure that we are actually really embodying what we say we are. This will help us all remember positive intent, remember that we actually are an amazing organisation for where it has come from and where we want to go. And this is just part of becoming a bit more grown up so that we can really continue to ensure that all 1,500 of our members are best served by this charity and continues to grow and be stronger in the future.
Absolutely. And so keep your eyes open, because we're going to be trying to invite people along to help us to develop these projects in the coming months. And I, for one, would absolutely love it if we could have some people help us with these.
Super. Well done. Firstly, well done, Simon, for getting through that section with your cold, and thank you, Emma, for chipping in. So yeah, as mentioned, these are our real core backbone projects about the running of Outdoor Lads. And if you're sat looking at that slide and think, oh, I have some skills, I have a background in that area, I would absolutely love to hear from you. I'm just going to pause a second, as I know that our chat is, there's a lot of debate and there's a lot of discussion heading off in our chat function at the moment. Now, again, let's take us back to what I said at the beginning, and please just be mindful of each other and be mindful of, especially in a written online context, how we're coming across, and the respect for each other, please, as we continue this discussion. So thank you both, Simon and Emma. So that's our last section on the project then. So we're going to now talk about next steps, and then we'll throw the floor open to some questions, comments, etc., etc. So Danny, I think this slide is for you next in terms of what's going to be happening next.
That's great. Thanks a lot, Matt. So yeah, just so following up from the previous strategy slides there, and obviously we've been mentioning in a couple of the questions that if people could just wait for sort of a couple of slides to come, and we'll give you a bit more information. So essentially what we were saying is we've heard your feedback that's come in over the last couple of days through various different channels, and since the final communication document was sent out in recent weeks as well. So we're committing to the points here that we can see on the slide. So I'm just going to go through them so it's nice and clear for everybody. So we are committing to further member engagement on the implementation of the strategy. We want to know what your concerns are about the revisions that we've made, what will work for you going forward and what doesn't. And we ask that you come to that with an open mind to constructively work with us to basically make Outdoor Lads work for everyone. And over the next 3 months, we want to work with our regional coordinators, organisers and leaders to determine what the implementation of the strategy will look like, how it will work on the ground, how events will operate, how they may be designated, all of the kind of questions that we're seeing people asking at the moment. And then over the next 12 months, we will aim to run pilot events, which Joey talked about a bit earlier on in his slide. Both internally and externally from Outdoor Lads to gain experience and to find a balance that meets all of our members' needs and highlighting all there, obviously, because we want to be representative of everybody's views and everybody's needs within the charity. We want to establish lessons learned from our strategic journey this year. Obviously, as Rich was talking about earlier, there's been an awful lot of different stages of the strategy across the course of this year. Lots of feedbacks coming from members at various different ways through the consultation, through the annual members survey, through the consultation inbox and leaders' Facebook pages, everything like that. So we want to obviously make sure we can learn lessons as to how we've engaged with you as the membership. And then we want to propose options for event strategies beyond 2023. Obviously, we will talk about those essentially in essentially any year's time at the AGM, when we've had the opportunity to run these pilot events over the course of the next 12 months and see how they go and how they're received and what improvements we can make in order to basically streamline events moving forward. I think that pretty much cover it, Matt. If there's anything else that I've missed, feel free to fill in the gaps.
Super, thank you, Danny. And I think this, is a genuine open plea to the board that we know that there are a lot of people who have joined the call, who've been involved in the debates, who still have concerns, worries, aspirations, worry that we're doing too much, worry that we're doing too little. And this is a real commitment to you all, that we want to keep these conversations going, that we want to hear your views, hear your opinions, what does work for you, what doesn't work for you. We will be taking this journey carefully, and I think that's something which all of us want to stress. This isn't a rash, quick decision. We are going to work with you, and we're going to take this journey slowly and steady with you. So I hope all those 5 points there. This is a genuine, open commitment to you all about what we're going to be doing. Okay, great, thank you. So next slide, please. Right, Emma, next steps.
Yeah, just some more practical sort of next steps. Obviously, there is still a packed event program for everyone to join in and to get out more. And that's what we want to really emphasize. These events are continuing and we want to do more and we want to do better. So please keep working with us to know what you want and how we can expand that, because that's the clear message. Behind the scenes, there's still going to be work going on, obviously, to continue implementing the strategy and laying out, developing those project plans, refining what we're going to do. And we need people to help us with that, as you've heard. We do run operational subcommittees, and there may be additional committees that we're going to add to that. A board meeting needs to be held so we can do our formal board elections of the chair, given that Matt is obviously stepping down as of tonight. And following that, we are looking to bring everybody together. So we'll have some new trustees from tonight and really refine our strategy implementation, focusing on the governance and finance review, and obviously the projects that you've seen described here tonight. We cannot do this without our regional coordinators, organisers and leaders. We want to bring them together to help us start to look. I've been seeing some great chats of people wanting to run inclusive events. So therefore, we want to see how we do this, how do we manage this within each region and meet the needs of our current members, and how we continue to build out what our future members might want. We are, though, however, as we've always said, run by members for members. So please do volunteer to help us run the charity. This could be event leaders, and as you've heard, is please talk to leaders, please talk to others to see if you're interested in that or what barriers there could be. And there's leader applications under my account. But we also need skills in policy, finance, running events, members, sponsorship and fundraising to help keep offsetting our membership fees and our future sustainability and partnerships with other organizations or sponsorship. So please do register your interest by emailing the support. We'll direct you to a form so we can capture skills, and we want to be able to understand your areas of interest and where you can help. There will be a role for everyone who wants to take part. There's a lot to do, and we really appreciate your help in doing it.
Super. Thank you, Emma. Okay, so thank you all for that. So we've now sort of taken you through the main slides. Hopefully we've kind of outlined the proposal and what we're going to be sort of taking forward, and I hope from that that you've got hopefully a sense of clarity of what's being proposed, and we need your help in terms of delivering this. So we're now going to come on to the question and answer section for this, and I'm aware that there's a fair amount of chat that's been happening in the chat box and some questions that have been posed in the Q&A functionality. So what we're going to do, if anyone would like to pose a question to the board, and if you'd actually like to do it in person through putting your virtual hand up, Simon will give you essentially the virtual talking stick. Our time this evening is precious. So please try to keep this as succinct as possible. But what we'll do first, and we'll let people be brave and put their talking hand up. If possible, if you could try to phrase your point as a question to the board, we will do our best to answer it. But we'll first pause and take some questions from the Q&A box from the floor for us and the rest of the board to answer on this. So, Danny, Liam, Rich, are there any questions that have come up that we would like to propose to the main board for us to answer?
There was a question about, from this point onwards, are we going to actively promote Outdoor Lads to the LGBTQ community, to the wider community?
Going forward, well, it's a difficult one, isn't it? But yes, we will be. But the GBT, don't want to call it that. The existing program is going to go ahead as normal, and it's these partnerships events or extra events will be advertised. But this is where we need people's help to come on board and help us with this, to develop it so we can get the strategy right. If we're still learning's the wrong word, we're still getting our card in order so we know that we get this correct. And I believe that we should be, but not yet. We should be, because we need to explore more. And that's what the next year is about, where we just start doing, we speak to these partnership groups, we speak to these external groups, we speak to members, we speak to leaders, and we work out the best strategy to do this. So as I said, in my part at the very start, there's a lot to do still. And we've still got a lot of ground to cover, and we're getting there slowly, and we are going to get there. We are going to get there, but yes, at some point we will.
Super, thank you, Rich. So we'll go to the written questions that we've had in for the board on the strategy. So the first question that we've had in is, given that there was a 50-50 split on the question of should we expand to the LGBT community, can the board reassure the membership they will continue to act in this area with the mission, with the membership, whether they agree or conflict with the can the board please reassure the membership that they will continue to act in this area in line with the wishes of the members, whether they agree or disagree with the individuals or collective view of the board members. So I think the answer to this question is, the reason that this has been so difficult and the reason that we have chosen to go down this proposal line with you is that there is a split in the members' opinion of this, and we have tried to find that delicate balance between these two groups of individuals who think that we should either remain the same or we should start the expansion into the wider LGBT community. And I hope that people on the call this evening will feel that we've tried to find that point between the two. We're not going to get it right all the time, and we need help from people on that phase. But the fact that we hopefully has come across, and if it hasn't, that's something for us to take away. But over the summer, thinking about how we have changed our strategy as the result of the consultation, I hope has come across to people that we have tried to balance the two sides of the argument on this camp. Okay, so in terms of the other questions we received, I'll line up another question if there's another question from the floor that we can answer.
Yeah, I've got 5 hands raised, or 4 hands raised, people.
Oh, okay, so.
Okay, I'll bring in first of all, because it's just top of the list, Steve Clifford. You can speak.
Clifford, the floor is yours.
Hello. So yeah, my question is basically on the process of all this, where promise was made back in June that there would be a vote for the endorsement of the members on the strategy before it went further ahead. Why is that not going ahead now? What's changed? Why are you not giving us an option to actually say yes, we either approve it or we don't? I can see from the chat there's lots of people saying they approve it. Great, you can vote on the endorsement to actually say you approve it. Why we're not having that option?
Super, thanks. Thanks, Steve. So I'll take you back to what we said in the communication that we sent out to members after when we sent out the revised version of the strategy, that we recognise that we said at the AGM. So we recognise in the consultation sessions and in the pre-AGM stuff that we had initially said that there was going to be a vote to endorse the mission statement of the group. That I'll put my hands up, was a mistake, in the sense that what would a vote to endorse the mission statement actually say as an organisation? The crux of this issue is boiling down to whether or not we should continue to go forward as an LGBTQ organisation, or keep for it with the AGM. We had a third of the members, over a third of the members, hundreds and hundreds of comments come through the consultation that was more than what we would ever thought to be. And we are stuck in a position where there is a split of views in the membership of this, and we really do not want a Brexit style situation where we could continue with a vote that might result in a very, very, very split opinion in this, as there is currently a split opinion now. And we have tried to find a position with this proposal that we hope works for both groups who are in the side of this one. We think that as a trustee board, and we are the leaders and the people responsible for taking the direction of this charity, that we think that this is the best proposal forward for the members and for the organisation. And we hope and we ask that you work with us and you work with the organisation going forward in delivering this strategy, and in a sense, vote with your feet. Come to the consultation strategy sessions, put yourself forward to be a leader, submit a motion at the next AGM if you're not happy with the direction of travel. No motions were submitted at this AGM. Members could have done, but no motions were submitted. So yes, this isn't going forward as a vote for the members today, but we hope as part of this consultation that we've addressed the concerns of both sides of this individual, and we want to try to get a way forward on this. So that's our reason why, and I hope that's clear. Right.
Thank you. Next on the list there is Glenn.
Hello.
Glenn, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I was I was a little bit surprised that how much the proposal had changed from its first draft to its last draft. I guess there were quite a few opinions that went into that change. My question is, with the new plan, which seems to be sort of do everything we're already doing and then add these other things, is there reason to believe that we'll have more leaders, that will have capacity to do this? Have people stepped forward from other parts of the community to begin to lead events or expressed interest in doing that? So I'm asking essentially, is this new vision possible? Is there space to do what you proposed, everything we're already doing, and then some more?
Danny McEwen, is this an event actually, or Danny Ballantyne as a leader question? Do you want to ask that one?
Yeah, I think that's a very fair question. And the honest response is, it's something we need to explore. The board is stuck in a very difficult position now, and somebody's made quite a good analogy, which is on a tightrope. And what we need to do is engage not only with our current leadership, but with other partners. As we said, we've already trialed a few events to see how they're going down, but we don't know what the future looks like. We're trying to steer this as best we can in a very politically sticky scenario. So we need engagement with not only our membership, but with other organisations to how they can help us support this direction. I think one thing that we debated whether to put in this slide deck was something like a Venn diagram. And I think what we need to bear in mind is, on one hand, there's retention of our current membership and looking after everybody. And on the other hand, there's exploration of this new direction. And those are going to come close, they're going to overlap slightly. And however much that evolves is going to be up to our members. So it's going to be up to our members to help us develop this. And I think we need a huge emphasis that all of the questions that are coming in aren't just aimed at the board, it's what can you do to help? We need people with constructive criticism and ideas to help us shape this future.
Can I add something quickly to that, Matt? Sorry.
Rich, I'm cautious of time.
Okay,
I'm going to suggest, if that's okay, if we move on to the next question, the next person who has raised a hand.
Next person we've got here is James Goddard.
James, the floor is
yes,
yours.
thank you, Matt. I wondered if you considered the example of the scene in the gay bars, because when they became inclusive, gay men have been pushed out of those venues. And could you explain why is it so terrible to have one organisation that is for gay men only, given that there are plenty of women-only organisations and there are plenty of mixed organisations?
Thank you, James. Joey, do you want to have a go at answering that one?
Yeah. Ultimately, it's not a terrible idea. The issue we've got is, one, our articles of association very clearly state that we do not do things around discrimination of sex. So gay, when you don't take discrimination of sex into account, means lesbian. So we should be doing events that cater for the larger community. That's what our association articles state. What we also need to remember is that just because we open the doors to our events does not mean that people are going to come over the hills like the Zulus. It's not going to look like that. The people who are turning up to gay bars in droves to get drunk are not the same people who are going to want to climb Scar Fell at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's going to attract a very different clientele. It's going to attract a clientele that are more likely to have the same views and the same lenses which they see the world through as the rest of us, because we've got that shared commonality of loving the outdoors. And also, very clearly, this is a queer organization, whether you like the use of the word queer or not to describe you. We are currently a LGBT male organization, hoping to expand slightly to a few other demographics. That in itself is not going to mean that we're going to get 300 stag doos of straight men who think going to a gay event is going to be the best thing in the world. It's a very different atmosphere in a gay bar, where the idea is to listen to good music and get drunk, to wanting to climb a mountain or wanting to walk down Blackboard Promenade, waving your pride flag and having a lovely day out and stopping at some pubs, whatever ODL event you like to go on. So I don't think we're in danger of having that bleed into where ODL ends up being actually 50% heterosexual people or 50% lesbians. I think we're very much going to, as I described, have a nice steady increase to whatever is a natural level of inclusivity for our group. So I understand your worries, but I just don't think that's something that's going to happen. And I think we can do a good job of spreading the fantastic mental well-being that ODL provides to a slightly broader group of people. And I think that's a very nice thing to do.
Super. Thank you, Joey.
Well, on line number 3, we have Daniel B.
Dan, the floor is yours.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so my question was more, do you not think moving to LGBT is going to take us away from our fundamental operational problems, where I've had many people on events who are trying to become leaders and they feel that the process has let them down? Or obviously we've got the 150 something leaders who are not running events. So if we engage with them people, that would hopefully fix some of the membership issues and the kind of financial issues. I am, like, I was looking at the original constitution before, and the original one actually just said gay and bi, and I do think the world's kind of moving on, but I think before we kind of change the organization fundamentally, we should kind of get the basics in place.
Dan, I think you make a fair point, which is we have a big shopping list of things that we need to sort out internally, and are we trying to bite too much off? I think we can do both. I think we can, as an organisation, start exploring. And I think this is the important thing, which I will say again, if this hasn't landed with people, I will repeat that slide, which is we are continuing with our existing event programme as per it is for our existing members. And we start this journey through some partnership organisations, through maybe doing a couple of our events that might be inclusive to begin with, to see what the demand and the structure is like, at the same time fixing the things that we need to fix behind the time. So I think there is a lot to do, but I think we can do both at not the detriment of each other. But no, thank you, Dan. I think it's a fair point and a fair challenge to us all.
We're just, I think we'll call this the last one for the moment, unless you want to do more. But Andrew, do you want to go now?
Andrew, I think you're muted, but the floor is yours if you want it.
Marvelous. I think I've just unmuted. Yeah, I'll just start by making one or two quick points. Firstly, I'm very proud to be on that leaderboard there, as that in terms of the leaders over the country running events, and also as a child of lesbian parentage, I'm really happy to see this move in direction to opening it out to the wider LGBT community. My question would be, have the board looked into how the widening of the membership can actually allow for an increase in the amount of different types of events? So you might have ones that are based more around abilities, more accessible events, different age limits, and basically make a very much more inclusive in a way that actually with a limited membership that we have at the moment, we just can't achieve.
Thanks, Andrew. Would someone like to answer that briefly?
And I'll chip in. Andrew, I totally agree with you. It's partly why we want more members overall, so that we can put on that much greater variety of events. We have events in various areas that don't fill, that could be supported by a broader member. And I know we have, I'm someone with chronic arthritis, and I know there are other members in similar things that, if you know, this will lead us to running slower walks as well as the extreme walks that we do at the moment, etc., etc. I think it will be something that will help us grow all ends of the organisation.
Super, thank you, Fergus. Right, Simon, who do we have left? We have to be brief now because we are running time.
We're going to come to Lyron. You've still got your hand up.
Lyron, the floor is yours.
Lyron, yeah. Hi.
Sorry if I've mispronounced your name. My apologies.
Yeah. I personally, reading some of the comments, I'm quite surprised at what level of heat this LGBT question has raised. Some very, very strong views. I personally am all in favor, certainly going bouldering to see a mixed group attend the events. That's my personal view. It's kind of stolen the limelight from the fact that in so many other areas, OutdoorLads fails to be inclusive and diverse. You know, we are very kind of white, Christian, British organization that doesn't represent the UK society. And this discussion of diversity has been completely hijacked by the question, should we have women in, yes or no? And that's been the only discussion we've been having.
Yeah, a really fantastic point. Would someone from the board like to come back specifically on that one? Joey, I know the diversity stream is your...
Yeah, you are in no way, shape or form wrong. It is a shame that we have become quite focused on this, and this is what, unfortunately, what has taken a lot of the board's time is dealing with the specific L, essentially, of inclusion. When I stood on the board last year, my manifesto, as well as several other board members who stood, was about inclusion, and we did listening sessions after the AGM, and it was very clear that the membership were shocked and disappointed that we were still predominantly a white, middle class, middle-aged gay group, and we did not serve members from other communities, regardless of whether it was for socioeconomic reasons or ethnicity or even different religions. Our website looks like me and has done for a long time. It is in the strategy and it has been run through, and I promise you that it is a major part of the strategy going forward. Every single project has it written in them to improve inclusivity, not just about gender. It is about other categories and it is about improving Outdoor Lads for everyone. But I appreciate that from this evening, and especially from the chat, you will think that the strategy is all about gender, and I promise you it is not. There is a lot, and I promise you it is interwoven into every single bit about making Outdoor Lads more inclusive for everyone.
Thanks, Joey. And I think, I think a really brilliant question, and something which I think we should all hold ourselves accountable for over the next year, and for the next thing around how do we do better, and we should need to be doing better in all of those spaces as well. So an absolutely brilliant question. Thank you so much. We've got last 2 points, and then I think we might wrap up the Q&A from the floor. So Simon, who do we have next?
Well, we'll try with James Goddard again.
Yeah, I get the feeling the board isn't really listening. There's no compromise here. So just to repeat what someone else says, why don't you just put this to the vote and then we'll make a decision. The group may or may not split, but then at least there will be some resolution.
Thanks, James. I think we have found a compromise position in what we are proposing for you. And I will say this again and stress it again, that the results of the consultation and the way the board changed our proposals over the summer is that we have changed the original proposal to what we had initially suggested. We have found a position which we think actually we're going to keep the programme for GBT men as it stands. And if that point hasn't come across strongly, I will repeat it again. That is not changing. And the programme will continue as per and dictated by our leaders. And we start this journey through starting off with partnership events and seeing if some of our leaders will be willing to start the considerations of what running inclusive events might look like. So that is a compromised position that we have taken as a group and what we've talked about this evening. So I hope that's clear, and if that hasn't come across from this evening, I will stress it again and again that over the summer we did spend time listening to the views of members and adapted our proposals accordingly. Right, I think, Simon, we might be up to the last question on this.
We are indeed. We've got Joe Waring.
Joe, the floor is yours.
All right. The thing is, there are 1,400 members, and it's still difficult to make a participation of most of them in different activities and volunteering. So now it's going to be bigger, this group. The idea to have be called in this one name, that means now, because it's going to be a macro organization, it's going to change the name.
Yes, so Rich, do you want to answer Joe's question about the name change and what's going to be going on?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Joe. So the name change. So in the governance project, we are looking at a rebrand, but this is it's going to be a year-long project actually, where we're not going to rush into it. We're going to sit down, we're going to form a group of members to form that committee and put like collective thoughts into it to do that. We do believe we are at a place where the Outdoor Lads name is slightly dated and a lot of members potential members don't identify as lads, so there is some work there. We don't think ODL will be the way forward. That's the acronym ODL, but we are looking at other options. But part of the proposal going forward is we'll be forming a group and we will be looking at the rebrand, and just that in itself could increase net numbers for us. It's just that small change of removing the word lads. Again, this is all to be explored and developed, and I will welcome anybody who wants to join us in that group. But yeah, so there will be a name change, maybe, and we'll look into it. It's going to take about a year, though, we think, because we can't rush into it. It has to be considered, and member engagement will be key throughout.
Super, thank you, Danny. I think we've lost the slides, but I think we are going to wrap up the questions from the floor in that section there. Okay, right. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for those who have submitted their comments and also put themselves forward to speak this evening for it. I hope that was clear in terms of the last question about the rebrand, in the sense that as part of the proposal, we said that we weren't going to go forward with the ODL change, and that we'll be working with members on a rebrand project for the next 12 months. So thank you. So before we move on to the last section of the AGM this evening, as I appreciate this has already been quite the long run already, are there any final questions in the Q&A box that anyone would like to put forward for us to answer?
No,
okay.
I think we're kind of I think we're kind of they've either already been answered, Matt, or we're kind of they're having an answer typed to them at the moment. So so obviously the transcript will be available, as people know, for those. So
and if anybody wants to ask a question, the consultation email is always open. So if you think then afterwards, submit a question.
So we'll draw that section to a close then, and I'd firstly like to thank everyone for their comments, for their challenges, their concerns, and their thoughts on the segment of this evening. So Danny, I think you're back. If you can just quickly take us back, I'd like you to take us back just to a couple of slides, just as a kind of a final recap. Next one. Of that section there. So just as a recap, and I think it is important that this isn't by the kind of the conclusion of the journey that we are going through. Over the next couple of months, we are going to be running these consultation sessions to listen to the continued thoughts, views, feelings of members who still have worries and issues about this. We're going to be working with our regional coordinators and leaders to what the implementation of the strategy is going to look like. And over the next 12 months, we begin this process and this consideration of how do we run these inclusive events, starting off with partnership events, running a couple of them internally to see what that will look like. But our current event program will continue as per. So I hope that is clear from everybody. Okay, well, thank you all so much for your comments and your views on this. I know that was a challenging debate, and lots of thoughts have gone into this, but this isn't the end of the end of the journey. So we're going to now go on to the final section of business for this evening. I know we are running over, which is the last section of governance that we need to go through, which is the appointment of our trustees. So Liam, as returning officer, I'm going to hand over to you to take us through the next section.
Thank you, Matt. So I'm Liam Russell. For those that don't know, I am the programme manager at OutdoorLads. So I work for OutdoorLads. I'm company secretary, and tonight I'm also the returning officer for our trustee elections. So we've got 5 candidates who are standing for election tonight, and you'll have seen their manifestos, which have been published a while ago now. You have 3 votes for each of these people. You can vote for, you can vote against, or you can abstain. So for clarity, an abstain is your vote isn't counted because you haven't made a vote. So for, against, or abstain are your choices. Each trustee needs to have half or more of the votes to be elected, and there are sufficient positions on the board for all of those 5 people to be elected to the board. We have opened up for proxy votes in advance. Now, the proxy votes were for people to vote in advance of the meeting only if they were unable to attend tonight. So if you are, we will be checking for this afterwards, but if you are one of those people who has completed a proxy vote and you're on the meeting tonight, please do not vote in this next section as you have your vote. If you are a pay-as-you-go member as well, then I'm afraid you don't get a vote. And again, your votes will be taken out later. Only full and concession members have a vote. So again, if you're a pay-as-you-go member, please do not vote in this next section. So we have 5 people who are standing for election tonight. I'll ask them each in turn to take the microphone and give a very short 2 minutes, and I am timing it, I'm afraid, little talk about their manifesto and what they will bring to the group. We'll start with Chris Keevitt, and then I will, at the end of that, come back to me and I'll ask you to place your votes, and I'll add those to the proxy votes that have already been received, and then announce if each trustee has been. Okay, Chris, can I, there's my slide. Chris, can I, excuse me, Chris, can I hand over to you for you to give us a quick 2 minutes on yourself, please?
There we go. Can everyone hear me?
We can, thank you.
Okay. Good evening, guys. My name is Christopher Keevitt. I've been a member of Outdoor Lads since about February of 2019. I have attended just over 50 meetings, 50 events. I'm currently a social leader, as well as just waiting on the tick box to be checked for camping leader, and I have my hostel assessment coming up in 2 weeks. I am currently a mental health first aider. I've helped a lot of guys just kind of chatting through, specifically during lockdown and whatnot. At Big Summer Camp a couple of weeks ago, I served kind of as the unofficial new member ambassador helper kind of thing. Helped out with about 20 or 25 new members, just getting them familiar with Outdoor Lads. As a member of the Board of Trustees, I have a great deal of experience in corporate governance, budget preparation. I am a residential property manager by trade, so I work with boards of directors continually, and budget preparation quite a deal. So I'll work with the current board on budget prep and whatnot, and we'll listen to the members on thoughts on the strategy and move ODL forward. Thank you, Liam.
Chris, that's great. So in a few seconds, you should see a box appear on your screen, which gives you the opportunity to vote. So if you can put that up, please, Simon, that would be great. So if you want to start making your vote, so for, against, or abstain, please vote now. Yeah, so I've just on the proxies, added the proxies to the votes in the meeting, and the results are 145 votes for, 25 votes against, and 37 abstentions. So congratulations, Chris, you have been elected to the Board of Trustees. Thank you very much. So we'll move on now to Emma Green. So exactly the same process again. So Emma, if I could hand over to you to do your no more than 2 minutes, please.
Thanks, Liam. Can everyone hear me okay?
We can hear you, Emma.
Brilliant.
We can.
Hi, everyone. Over the last 6 years, around a dozen of my friends have been members of Outdoor Lads. It was through advertisement of a trustee role for staff management that I decided to apply. At the time, I was looking for volunteer trustee and non-executive roles to support communities and organisations that are important to me, whilst broadening my own experience and perspective. In my professional career, I've been successful in strategic leadership with development and delivery of business plans, as well as day-to-day operations. I'm rewarded by seeing people and organisations grow, to transform and flourish. My personal values include respect, curiosity, and kindness. I'm driven to play my part in making the world a better place by listening to what people need and enabling this to happen. I'm passionate about the benefits of well-being, adventure, and friendship that Outdoor Lads provides its members. I want to see that this is preserved above all else for our current members and share these benefits by attracting more members to join. As an external trustee, I aim to support the trustees and staff team, particularly through governance projects, including finance and commercial opportunities, as well as embedding our values and culture into everything that we do. In my role as acting trustee this past year, I've learned a great deal from the board and staff team, together with the member feedback. We do have a lot to do and still a lot to learn together. If you elect me, I'm committed to keep listening through ongoing member engagement while working with you to ensure Outdoors Lads' continued success for all our current and future members. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Emma. You're 15 seconds under, which is what I was just saying. So well done on that. So Simon, can we do the same process again, please? And if you put the voting up. So again, you have a choice of for, against, or abstain. Please do not vote if you submitted a proxy vote or if you are a pay-as-you-go member. Off you go. Thank you very much, everybody. So results are in, and results for is 141, against 41, abstain 30. So congratulations, Emma, you've been elected to the Board of Trustees. So then we will move now, please, again, the same process to Fergus. Fergus is an existing trustee who has served one term, and how trustee appointments work is that every 3 years, at the end of your term, you are automatically stood down. If you wish to stand again for a further term, then you'll need to be elected by the membership, which is what we're doing tonight for Fergus. So Fergus, can I hand over to you for your 2 minutes as well, please?
Hi, everyone. I'm quite sure I know lots of you, and I'm sure lots of you know me. And if I haven't met you, I've almost certainly met people who do know you. So I get a lot of feedback from members throughout the country. I just wanted to touch on some of our core values. I particularly wanted to start with looking at our excellence. And I'd like really to focus on the delivery of excellence by our amazing volunteers who really run just fantastic events for us. I'm also one of them. I've actually got the honour to be the first trustee to have responsibility for safety. So during this period, we've updated all of the risk assessments, and we're working and will be working with the leader groups in which we'll be setting up as part of this to rebuild the handbook so that we grow the group and get new leaders. That excellence can run throughout the organisation. I think it comes very much from our fantastic volunteers. I'd just like to name check Mark Rawlinson in mountain biking, who I've worked with very closely on that as a model, and we have excellent relationship on that. I pick out also adventure. When I started Outdoor Lads, I'd never been climbing. Through Outdoor Lads, and I'll name check people like Dave Stacey, Wilco Steckinger, people who've helped me, I've reached the point where I can do multi-pitch climbing and grade-free scrambling. So, and on the point of age, I started that over the age of 50. So thank you to everybody who's helped me. I want to make sure that we have all the policies and processes in place so that we can share those skills and build on those, and other people can learn that and learn how to then share those as leaders. So I think that's another thing I wanted to really address. And the last thing.
Stop you there, please, Fergus. Sorry.
Is that my time? That's fine.
I'm afraid. Actually, I'm timing it. Thank you very much. Process now, people. So if we could put up, please, the voting.
Yeah, it should be live now.
Here's on your screen. Then again, make a choice for, against, or abstain. Thank you very much. So thank you very much. So the results for Fergus, isn't that right? Yeah. Results for Fergus are 139 for, 37 against, and 31 abstentions. So congratulations, Fergus. You have been elected for a second term to the Board of Trustees. So we move on now to Richard Overton, please. Rich, I think you should know the drill now. So if I can just set my timer again for you, and off you go.
I won't take 2 minutes. Hello, everybody. So I'm Richard. I'm currently the co-opted trustee for comms and marketing. It's a bit strange doing this. I've been in the role for 9 months. I've been a member of Outdoor Lads for over 6 years, and of those 5 of those years, I've been a mountain, hostel, and camping leader, doing many events across the UK. I will say that Outdoor Lads has been a massive part of my life, and it's been a fantastic experience. The role I applied for was actually advertised last November, and the role was, as I said, comms and trustee. And I literally jumped at the chance. I've always wanted to do more within Outdoor Lads, and this was the perfect opportunity. In my day job, I colour in for a living, so I'm a graphic designer. And over the last 20 years, I've worked with design studios, advertising agencies, marketing teams of all shapes and sizes, which give me enough, plenty of skill to work on the comms and marketing role. As I said, I was co-opted onto the board in late 2021 and literally hit the ground running. I'm very lucky to work closely with the key teams. So that's Liam and Dan, and obviously the trustees as well, and across the various comms related projects and day-to-day queries. A key highlight so far has been the North Face campaign, which literally landed the week I got access to Facebook, so it's quite lucky. And that's been and for Outdoor Lads alone, just working on that was like generated significant engagement, as well as a sizable kit and financial donation for the charity. From a communications future planning perspective, the actual findings from the consultation are really helping us design and shape Outdoor Lads' futures comms and narrative. And I'm really glad to see tonight we've mentioned about ethnicity, social, economic, and other communities that we represent, because that is one of my key aims to, as Joey says, remove him off the website and put a more diverse representation on the website so other members can feel like that. And that when it comes to imagery, it's also the copy as well. Another key part of my role, we're looking at active engagement with other brands and groups and charities like the North Face to help promote and grow Outdoor Lads. And I say it's been a bit of a whirlwind 9 months of being co-opted. Obviously, the consultation's taken a lot of that time up, but it's been a great fun. It's been a massive learning curve.
Rich, I'm sorry.
Oh, damn.
You're on a roll, I'm sorry.
I thought it was going to be a minute.
Sorry, but well done. So if we could have the voting up for Rich again, please, that'd be grand.
It's there.
Thank you very much. So please make your vote for, against, or abstain. So the results are in for Rich, and there are 185 votes for, 9 votes against, and 17 abstentions. So huge congrats, Rich. You have been elected to the Board of Trustees. Very good. So we're going to move on to William now. Danny McEwen would like to say something before we go into that. So if we can go to Danny and then Danny to William, that would be grand. Thank you.
Thanks, Liam. I'll be very brief. Hi, everyone. So there's been a number of questions both before the AGM and during just about the recruitment process for William. As was stated on the manifesto documents, William is being proposed by the board to take up the role of chair, which obviously would take place after the AGM, subject to his vote this evening. So I just wanted to respond to the process that's been undertaken for that. So William approached Outdoor Lads via our external advertisement for the chair role, which took place a bit earlier this year in June. We had initially sought internal candidates from the existing board, as would normally be the process. And also once we'd started advertising externally, we sought from the wider membership also. William has been through an extensive interview process with myself and a number of other trustees over a number of sessions over the last 6+ weeks to explore his skills essentially in strategy, and is including his roles on other boards and committees, and importantly his ability to build working relationships. Now, whilst we accept, as some people have picked up on, that William has not been a recent member of the charity, we are seeking somebody with experience in taking a lead on the strategic direction, with the ability to see the big picture, which we think is an important thing at this time. William has demonstrated commitment throughout the process, and we feel that he is right for the role. William will be supported by other trustees and our staff team if he is appointed, as we all want to see Outdoor Lads succeed now and in the future. And I'll just say we would encourage all members to support him and to work with him and the Board of Trustees as we develop the strategy. I'll hand back over to you, Rich. To Liam, sorry.
Oh, you're handing to me, that's fine. I'm just going to hand to William, I think. So Simon, can you sort William out with microphone access, please?
Yeah, there you go. You should be able to turn on your camera as well if you want to.
Thanks for the patience there. Good evening, everyone. I returned to the UK in March after several years abroad. When I left London, my goal was to integrate my professional life as a risk manager with my psychoanalytic work that I had also been doing. This eventually led me into working in wilderness therapy. Much of my formative life has been spent working as an outdoors professional. In my early working life, this was within the scouting movement and a camp for bereaved children. Most recently, I worked as a clinical wilderness therapy guide in the US. And after a period of discernment, I returned to my professional life as a risk change consultant. Now I'm looking to bring these worlds together, using my professional experience and contributing to Outdoor Lads. Not only do I see Outdoor Lads as a way to further integrate my life, I see the organization as a way to help address the gap within the LGBTQ+ community engaging in outdoor activities. Over the next year in particular, the membership will be getting a chance to see and define more about the direction of Outdoor Lads. I look forward to be part of that engagement and facilitation. As stated in my published manifesto, I would like to see Outdoor Lads broaden its scope through addressing systemic barriers to participating in the community, not forgetting the community that exists. Combining both professional strands, I believe I can help lead Outdoor Lads through this period of strategic change. I bring my professional background in governance, risk, and compliance in both private and the third sector, with a passion and ability for the use of the wilderness and personal development. It is on that basis that I am applying to be a trustee and put myself forward for the role of chair of the board of trustees. Thank you.
Thank you very much, William. So if again, we can do the now familiar voting pattern. So Simon, if you can put that up for us, that would be great.
Yeah, again, that should all be live for you all.
I can see that now, so please make your votes.
Liam, whilst that's going on, do you want to explain to the members the process the board goes through in selecting the executive officers, just as a recap, whilst it's taking place?
Absolutely. So members vote for the trustees, and the trustees get together to vote the key positions within the board, those key positions being chair, vice chair, treasurer, and secretary. So the board will be meeting within a couple of weeks to make those appointments. In the meantime, we'll just have a meet briefly after this to decide who's going to take those roles on in the coming couple of weeks. I'm company secretary, but not a trustee, and I imagine that position will probably continue as well. So it is the trustees that decide who's chair, vice chair, treasurer, and secretary.
And the reason why we asked Liam to be the secretary is because there are a number of roles which are required of company secretary, which have to be done during office time, and it just makes sense to be. Right, I'm going to end the poll there if everyone's happy. We've only had 146 of 180 participants, but it's had the same amount of time as everyone else.
Thank you very much. So results are in. We have 103 for, 72 against, and 36 abstain. So congratulations, William. You have been elected to the Board of Trustees. Thank you very much, everybody, for putting your votes in tonight. Appreciate your time and effort there. Thank you. And over back to you, Matt.
Right, thank you, everybody. I appreciate that. Took a little bit longer than expected and was a little bit painful with the voting choreography, but a big congratulations to Chris, Richard, Emma, Fergus, who have I missed? Richard, Fergus, Emma, Will, and Chris for their appointments. So congratulations to everybody. And again, thank you everyone for bearing with us as we got through the voting. So we're on to the final stretch now. I appreciate we're running over, but we're now coming on to the final section of the agenda, which is our thank yous and our leader awards. So let's now move on to the next slide, which we've got two thank yous. So Danny Valentine, I believe you're taking this slide.
Thanks, Matt. The most prominent thing we've said this evening is that Outdoor Lads is essentially powered by our volunteer base, and two people who stood out massively over the last year. One is Nick Reed, who runs Pride Expeditions, but is also very kindly volunteered to be technical advisor on our events and leader standards, our health and safety programme. Nick's been pivotal in allowing us to continue to move forward with our events. So a huge thank you to Nick and all the time and energy he's put in. On a very similar vein, Richard Reed, again, has freely given up many hours of his time and dedication to help with the with the website migration, so moving where we've come from and going to a new provider, Richard spent many hours with new providers and vetting all of the people that we've been moving to. So again, Richard, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you both. Okay, we have another thank you this evening for Linton. So Danny, this is you.
Thanks, Matt. Hello again, everybody. So yeah, it's my opportunity to say thank you to Linton Technologies. And for those who don't know, Linton Technologies were responsible for the first iteration of the OutdoorLads website and all the technological support that went into the background of OutdoorLads from 2006 when it first started. So primarily at the time, that was Stephen Allen, who's obviously a current trustee at the moment, and the very infamous F1 Dan that I think everybody in the organisation knows in some way, shape or form from their time in OutdoorLads. So just to say basically a very big thanks to Linton Technologies and to the two of you individually for everything over the years. I can recall a very brief, very funny situation. I think we had a server go down on Boxing Day, and I remember the board emails flying back and forward of F1 Dan getting to the data center in snowy conditions to make sure that we got the website back up and running as quickly as possible. So the dedication to OutdoorLads was ever present. So a big thanks from me and from all at OutdoorLads to everyone at Linton Technologies.
Absolutely. The end of quite an era, but a massive, massive, massive thank you to Stephen and Dan, and of course Linton for their amazing support over the years. So thank you, boys, on that one. Okay, next slide, please. So, Simon, do you have any voice left for the thank you for all of our new leaders slide?
For leaders, I always have time and voice. So I'm not going to read out those names though. But we have had quite a number of brand new leaders this year, as you can see on the screen. So thank you to all the people who've become leaders this year, but also thank you to all of the leaders and coordinators who have put time and effort into assessing them and supporting all of these new leaders. And I'd also like to say thank you to everyone who has done, qualified as an additional stuff. So if you're a walk leader and you're now a camping leader or a hostel or climbing or whatever, thank you to all of you for going ahead and doing that so we can run more amazing events.
Super. Thank you, Simon. We'll promise we'll stop you talking now, and a massive thank you to all of our new leaders in the last 12 months. Amazing. We look forward to seeing your events coming up in the next year. All right, next slide, please. So thank you to all of our new members. So Gavin, who's one of our trustees, was flying back from holiday. Gavin, have you made it onto the call? I don't think you have.
Gavin's messaged me. He's still in Amsterdam because of a broken plane.
The classic broken plane scenario. So not to worry. Well, firstly, a big thank you as well to 348 new members. I hope we've seen a number of you on the call this evening. It's a pleasure to have you in our Outdoor Lads family. So a big thank you to all those who have taken up membership this year. That's great. So I think we have a final thank you before we get on to our leader awards. So next slide, please. So we have a reasonably special thank you this evening to some of our long-standing members. And Stephen, I'm going to hand over to you for this bit.
So I think I've been asked to talk about this slide because I feature on it somewhere. But we've got an awful lot of members that have been with us right from the start. So if we're talking about here from we've got figures going back to 2007. And the people that you can see on this screen have been members, paying members right throughout that period of time, but not only members, active as well. So this is year on year attending events and taking part in the organisation. So huge congratulations to all of these people that have been members right from the very beginning. Thank you very much.
Super. Thank you, Stephen. And my challenge to many of you is let's see in a couple of years for our members who are close to see if you can get onto that notice board as well. So thank you, Stephen. Right, we now come on to the best bit of the AGM, always in my opinion, and we're almost there towards the end, which is our Volunteer Leader Awards. And for this section, I'm going to hand over to Danny Ballantyne and Liam to take us through this segment.
Real. Thank you, Matt. Then the first point to dwell on, again, we've said it multiple times, we're a member-led organisation. Without our members and our leaders, we are nothing. And I think we need to give a special recognition to our regional coordinators who work very closely with the office team to make sure that we have a full event programme throughout the year. But the key people on the ground, which are event leaders, and without you guys, we would not be able to run the amazing events that we do over the year. Liam?
So each year we ask for nominations for our leader awards to recognise those leaders that have done something special, gone over and above and beyond. There were so many nominations this year, which is brilliant to see. So all the people that have been nominated are on this slide, and it's just fantastic that so many of you are recognising so many of our great leaders who help make Outdoor Lads what it is. And without these people, there would be no events and there'd be no Outdoor Lads. So if your name's on here, thank you very much. If you're a leader and your name isn't on here, still thank you very much. It's still great to see what you've all been contributing to the group. So huge congrats. The first award which we're going on to is Mr. Stephen Turner. Stephen is one of our walks organisers in the Northwest region and does a great job up there of putting on walks and also organising everybody else who's putting on walks. Stephen's one of the quiet ones who just gets on with the job, really, and we wanted to recognise that work that he's been doing. Several comments and nominations for Stephen coming in, a couple of quotes on there as well for him. So big congratulations, Stephen, and your certificate will be in the post. Danny, over to you.
Thank you. The next, our infamous Mr. Hooson. Tim, it's an absolute pleasure having met you, having been on many of your events, and the feedback speaks volumes. Your welcoming attitude to all of the membership has been recognised not only by a couple of people but by multiple, and I think this is exactly what we want to represent as an organisation: friendly and welcoming, and part of that ODL magic that we all allude to. So Tim, a massive well done for what you've done over the last year. Thank you.
So the next one is Andy Hewlett. Andy's got some great comments here about Andy. He's been doing some of the more adventurous and slightly scary for some of us events. Done a cracking job of that. Lovely chap as well. Involved in the North Face stuff and really getting stuck in and doing loads of great events for us. So thank you very much, Andy. Really appreciate your efforts. Back to you, Danny.
Gavin, you've been mentioned a couple of times tonight. The same thing again. Great walk leader. Your attitude in supporting the membership is absolutely meticulous. Again, your attitude for welcoming people is absolutely brilliant. These are the behaviours that we want to see across the organisation. And the ask is that everybody who might not have been nominated tonight, look at some of this feedback and think, what can we do to be on this board for next year? And these guys are some of the star models for the year that we've just gone. So Gavin, well done.
Do you need to say on Gavin? Gavin technically wouldn't have been, you've gone forward, Gavin technically wouldn't have been eligible because he won last year, but the sheer volume of nominations we had for Gavin was absolutely huge. So we had to scrap that rule for Gavin because it was ridiculous. It's about 35 or something. So well done, Gavin. You really appreciate it down there. Thanks. Now we've gone to James Watson, who's prematurely. So James is in one of our Scottish leaders. There's some really good events, really getting people involved and getting a real atmosphere going up there. And also particularly the event you ran in May this year, which is one of our new style optional accommodation, if you like, events. Really amazing feedback for that. So great to see your work going on there, James. Thank you very much. It's fantastic.
Aaron Moran from Manchester. Aaron has done a great job of taking on part of the indoor climbing programme. So working very closely with Simon Dennis and taking on the huge role of the Manchester climbing programme, which is a significant task in itself. Aaron guides new members, existing members, again, speaks volumes. Thank you so much for all the work you've done. And I think recognition for a huge event in particular, which was the Big Spring Climb event in Sheffield. It's events like this and people like you, Aaron, that get these off the ground and make sure that we give members something to look forward to. So congratulations, well done.
So the next one is a special award we're giving out this year, and has been mentioned tonight, which was we tried something new this year at both spring and summer camp for first timers. So what we used to refer to as newbies, people coming on their first event or their first few events, or perhaps coming on their own. And it can be quite daunting turning up to an event, and particularly a big event, on your own and getting stuck in and meeting people. So for many years, we've done a newbie meeting, which we decided was getting a bit old hat and not as effective. And so we tried a new idea where we asked leaders to have a small group of people camping with, who they would look after for the first 24 or so hours, make sure people are engaged, chatting to others, getting stuck into the event, answering any questions. And the feedback has been fantastic, and it's worked really, really well. And I'm really pleased that we've managed to incorporate that into our events program. So these people, Will Alloway, Stephen Clifford, Chris Kewitt, Richard Overton, and Andy Renault, were the people leading these at spring and summer camps. So an award for all of you 5 as well. You will be getting a certificate, just to say thank you for your work there. The feedback and the impact that's had on those new members has been tremendous. So well done. Thank you.
Super. Right, well, thank you all so much, and we are now sort of drawing the meeting to a close. Well done to all of our leaders who won an award this evening. Well done to everyone who received a nomination. As ever, it's a lovely way to finish off the meeting. So in terms of any other business, there is one thing that I just want to make sure that we captured for the minutes was one of our members, Colin, wanted earlier on this evening to raise a point of order regarding how the organisation talks about age and around potentially some thoughts around the strategy presentation in regards to sort of were that coming across as a little bit ageist, and is willing to work with the group to how is that a potential issue. So Colin, we want to take you up on that offer, but I do want to make sure for the minutes we do record that as a point of order. So we're running over horrendously, and I think we will take that as our any other business for this evening.
Can I just interject briefly, Matt, if I may? I will be very, very brief. Well, brief as much as I can. So we spent an awful lot of time thanking everybody else in the organisation over the last couple of slides, but you've obviously forgotten to have a slide for yourself, Matt. So I have been there to do that for you, or rather Simon is on the case as we speak. So hopefully everybody can see those wonderful pictures. There's more to come, don't worry. So I just wanted to, from me, Matt, just to say a very big thank you to you for your time as a trustee over the years. Obviously running right through from vice chair and trustee for staff, and more recently in your current term as it comes to an end as chair. Obviously you definitely won't have known at the time that you were standing as chair as a global pandemic was about to hit, but I think the board led by you basically we it steered the charity through those COVID waters, and it's you should know obviously how thankful we all are for the efforts of yourself in making sure that it's still here after COVID, after one of the most existential shocks to the organisation. It's still here, so we're very, very glad for all of that. I'm now going to pass over to Mark House, who's going to go through a few of these photos and just say a bit of a thanks of his own as well. So hopefully Simon can give the talking stick to Mark.
Good evening, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me.
We can hear you, Mark.
We can hear you.
Good stuff. Well, I'm sorry about this, Matt, but I was approached as one of the regional coordinators and as, well, until now at least, a friend of yours, to say a few words on behalf of the leaders and coordinators by way of thanks. I gave some thought as to how I might be able to do this in a way that embarrasses you the least, and then I readjusted my approach to the brief and thought, no, let's do it in a way that embarrasses you the most. So I turned my attention to the historic photo albums of Facebook. So hopefully this will be an enjoyable, light-hearted end to the AGM for everybody else, and painfully painful for you on the occasion of your retirement. My trawling of the photographs began very positively when I was reminded of just how outdoorsy you are, Matt. There's some wonderful photographs here of you engaging in the outdoor activities that the group is so proud of. And I was soon reminded that notwithstanding your huge collection of expensive branded outdoor coats, that you are rarely happier than when you're parading around the hills in your favourite cozy, as the next slide goes to prove. I say rarely happier because those who know you well will know that you're probably your happiest when you've got a drink in your hand. And as you'll see from the next slide, well, you couldn't be looking any happier with that, if I remind you, pint of gin in your hand in the photograph on the right there. But don't let these pictures fool you into thinking that Matt Tennant, or Lady T, as she's sometimes known, can handle his drink. In the wise words of Liam Russell, there's only one thing worse than a Mark House hangover, and that's a Matt Tennant hangover, as these very recent photographs prove. And just when you're thinking, blimey, with all that outdoorsiness and all that heavy drinking, Matt Tennant really does bring the lads for Outdoor Lads. I went further into the depths of the archives and discovered that Lady T does have quite a soft and sensitive side, as you can see here. Wonderful poses being struck by our outgoing chairman. But the most important thing about Matt, for which he'll certainly go down in history and legend within Outdoor Lads, is his willingness to get stuck into any job that comes his way. And this classic photograph from spring camp a few years ago shows him getting stuck in that way that we're all familiar with. That's the end of the embarrassment, I think, really. There's a final slide with some lovely photos of you, Matt. On behalf of the leaders and the coordinators, we thank you very much for all that you've done, all your huge effort and hard work and enthusiasm. We love you loads, and we can't wait to seeing you as a regular member back in the outdoors again soon, creating some wonderful more photographs, I'm sure.
Thank you, Mark, for that lovely display. We are running over quite significantly, and I'm going to keep my words pretty brief this evening. I'm not the only trustee who's stepping down from the board this evening. Our wonderful trustee for volunteers over the last couple of years, Danny Ballantyne's term of office has come to the conclusion. You will all know Danny from either the Eagle in Manchester or from the various climbing walls out in the northwest, and Danny's been looking after our volunteers and more recently looked after so much of this strategy development. So I think we should also use this time to give our thanks to Danny Ballantyne, who will be leaving the board at this point. So an enormous thank you, Danny. So I'm going to close the meeting now with just obviously a couple of very short reflections. The night is very late and we all either want to have some alcohol or go to bed. This is now essentially my last act as trustee for the last couple of minutes. I've been a trustee on this group for 9 years and chair for the last 3 of them. It has been an amazing honour and privilege to be at the head of this charity through some amazing, challenging, difficult times. I've seen the group change from a group of well-intentioned but maybe not as organised people to a really professional, engaging, dynamic charity. I want to give my thanks to a number of trustees and board members over the years who I've had the absolute privilege of working with. My first chair, Paddy, who joined the board, to Dave Lawrence and Peter Walter, who taught me the trick of the trade about how to chair this rabble and this lot into some form of committee, and it's been an absolute privilege to do so. But my biggest thanks actually is to everybody within this organisation who has stepped up over the years, whether it be running events, whether it be helping out, whether it be dealing with a bad situation. Our volunteers and our leaders are really at the heart of this organisation. And I think I pay tribute to all of you who have contributed and helped either run an event or make this wonderful organisation as good as it is this evening. So a few final thoughts just to close the meeting on for me before I dive off and have a lot of red wine. I'm going to ask you all to heed this advice. Outdoor Lads will fail as an organisation when we assume that it's someone else's problem to sort something out. It's someone else's responsibility to set up an event. It's someone else's responsibility to sort something out. It falls to all of us, regardless if you're a leader or not, to help run and set up this organisation. And even if tonight you leave a little bit disparaged and disillusioned to what you hear, step up to the plate, be the change that you want to see, and put yourself forward to lead this organization. We are an ideas-rich charity. We have ideas coming out of every orifice, but we lack the resource and the people to implement those ideas. The trustees are only 11 people. We don't have the resource to do everything. So my plea and my request to those on the call this evening is have a think about what we can all do to help succeed this charity. And I know that many of you who join this call this evening will have concerns, worries, frustrations, concerns about how you see Outdoor Lads going. I know that, I feel that we have had a difficult period over these last couple of years, and especially over the last 12 months, trying to get a direction of the group going forward. If I have any remaining favours to cash in as an organisation, stick with us, see what it's going to be like tomorrow and into the future. And if you decide once you've got over that barrier that this group isn't for you, that's absolutely fine. But if there's my final plea in the last dying minutes of me being chair, is stick with us, come along with this journey and see what it's like. I'm going to close my final remarks and say being chair of this organisation has been one of the hardest, but one of the best things that I have ever done, and I wouldn't change this for the world. I wish the future trustees, the future boards, leaders, regional coordinators, the absolute best. You will all do a sterling job, and I look forward to seeing you on the other side of the fence as a regular leader and member. So thank you, everybody, and what a ride it has been. So on that note, thank you everybody for their time this evening. This has been a long meeting. We have overrun, but thank you everybody for bearing with us. I look forward to seeing everybody on an event at some time soon. Our Christmas event program, I believe, is now live. A couple of events are already up for booking. I believe Peaky Christmas is looking fully booked. And if you want to go see me extremely drunk at Northwest Christmas this year, booking opens at 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. So get on that. It's going to be a good one. So on that note, at 10:30, I am going to call this AGM to a close. Thank you all so much for your attendance, participation and enthusiasm this evening, and I'll look forward to seeing everybody shortly. Thank you, everyone.
Right, the G&T's on you, Matt.
Yes, they will be, yes.